kingdom, kingdom, swag, swag, kingdom, kingdom, flow, flow. We was once lost, lost, now we know. Kingdom, kingdom, swag, swag, kingdom, kingdom, flow, flow. We was once lost, lost, now we know. Y'all ain't never seen a man of God crying like that. Pull up on the block and know they die like that. It should be a true crime for him to shine like that. Put the word on the track and make him bring it back. Y'all ain't never seen a man of God crying like that. Pull up on the block and know they die like that. It should be a true crime for him to shine like that. Put the word on the track and make him bring it back. Bring it up.
Got a kingdom elegance shooter. I am in my element shooter. Banging out the trunk like an elephant shooter.
Bass in your face.
Okay, everybody, shalom, shalom. Sorry, I don't know if before you heard me before. I think we had a slight disruptance there. But let me repeat it again, just to announce to everybody, if you're just tuning in, you are listening to the GOCC Search Engine International broadcast.
Gathering of Christ Church is pleased to announce the launch of the GOC Network. The GOC Network is a platform now giving brothers and sisters within the body the opportunity to showcase and promote their businesses, their skills, talents, and gifts the Most High gave them. As a body, it is our responsibility to build up our community, coming together in one spirit, one accord, becoming like in times past, a self-sufficient nation, preferring one another and trading amongst ourselves. The GOC Network is a stepping stone to help make that possible. Here are some members of the family that have already joined and is currently being promoted on the official GOC website and blog talk radio shows. Organo Gold, Money-Saving Fuel Treatment, Just Everything Natural, Custom Designs by Sister Riri, Moreno Studios, Truth Oils, Solutions by Lex. If you would like more information regarding these businesses, please visit GOC.org under the GOC Network heading, subheading Businesses. And if you have a business or a service you want to promote and you would like more information on how to become a member, please send an email to gocnet@aol.com and we will provide you with more details on how to become a part of the GOC Network.
Said he's so amazing, his joke is easy, and him I find so much peace. Said he's the best, oh yeah, it's the best relationship I ever had, oh yeah, with my father. Said I'm trying to teach my people how to love you.
Trying to teach my people how to love you, Father.
But I'm singing to you, Father, Father.
Singing to you.
I'm singing to you, yeah.
It's all for you, Father.
Said you're unnameable. Words can't explain you.
Words can't explain.
Say, and nothing compares to you. Oh yeah, nothing compares.
All right, and you just heard a commercial there for the GOCC network, which is available on the website at gatheringofchrist.org. Okay, let me just give you just a quick rundown real quick of all the people advertising so far on the GOCC network. All right, we have Organo Gold, which is a organic coffee distributors. You just heard the commercial, just another infomercial. And we have Save Gas and Money.info, a money-saving fuel product. Just Everything Natural, 100% natural body care products. Custom designs by Sister Riri, and if you haven't seen anything that she's done, really go and check it out. Really good. She does the Bible covers, put your custom design it with your name on it, Mitris and more. Okay, Moreno Studios, which is a professional photography and video service. Truth Oil, which is affordable health oils, soaps and lotions, and yeah, you need to get some of that as well if you haven't. Okay, cut out a lot of the products with with animal products and animal animal parts in it, swine, etc. You would we'll get it healthy, natural, organic. All right, and solutions by Lex, affordable career and business services. All right, and then we also have some new people on with us right now, and we have our continuous growth, calendars, t-shirts, CDs, and more. Shea & Co. Consulting, which is a professional legal service, and also Burton Web Designs, custom-made websites. All of this you can find at www.gatheringofchrist.org on the GOC network, okay? Subheading businesses. So please go and check it out, support it. All of it is for the works, all right? And more. Okay, I think Elder Rawchaa is here with us. But before I bring Elder Rawchaa in, 1 second here. Let's make sure all my mics here are clear. Okay, let me go over to Elder Rawchaa. Shalom, Elder Rawchaa. How you doing?
Shalom, brother. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you now.
Yeah, okay. Shalom.
Shalom, and how are things?
Everything is well. All praise be to the Most High, and I want to like to say hello, shalom to all the brothers and sisters worldwide.
Okay.
I understand we're going to have a guest on the show very soon, correct?
The guest is actually here now in the studios.
Great.
So our guest obviously is in the third. He's here with us in the studios. It's Mr. Michael Rood. That's R-O-O-D. All right, and he's our guest tonight. He's here with us. But go ahead.
Okay, that's no problem. I just wanted to make sure that before the end of the show, we touch on the Ebola scare that's been put out through the world government as a pretext to go to war against the elect population of the earth. Linking in Revelation 12 when it says the devil has come down knowing that he have a short time and begin to attack the woman who bears the man-child. So this is not only a spiritual but a physical attack that the world government under Satan is doing. I would say in stealth mode. They're using the healthcare system and other types of so-called authoritative positions to actually spread plagues and kill off a large number of the population. And this is all prophesied according to the Bible, the times we're in. So, of course, there'll be plagues and wars and rumors of wars, but what's not being published throughout the earth concerning those prophecies is that a lot of these things that Christ spoke of would be generated through the satanic governments of the earth. So that's why he warned us in Matthew 24, the signs of his coming. The things he warned us from would be dark forces working against the elect. And that's the time we're in, and that ties directly to the so-called quote-unquote Ebola virus, which is not organic at all, was created in a laboratory, and it's germ warfare against God's people. But without any further ado, I just wanted to put it out there before we get cut off again or whatever the case is. I'll touch on more of that before the end of the show. But let's get over to our guest and let's have a good discussion this evening.
Okay, let me go over to him right now. Mr. Michael Rood. Shalom.
Shalom. It's good to be with you, gentlemen. Thank you.
And thank you for
bless you.
Well, this is our early evening here in the United States of America. I just got back in this country a short time ago. It must be quite early in the morning over where you gentlemen are, is it not?
Oh yeah, it's quite early, but it's worth staying up for. How are you doing this evening?
Well, doing very well. I'm back in the U.S. I'm here at our studio, which I moved from Jerusalem to the U.S. just a few years ago. I still live up in the Galilee in Israel, but we moved our post-production studio over to Charlotte, North Carolina. So that's what puts me on the other side of the world at this point. But I just got through a speaking tour, which I was in the Netherlands, then down in Paraguay, Argentina, and then Costa Rica for Spanish, the Spanish end of it, back in the U.S. for several nights. And so now finally just got in just one day ago, got back into Charlotte, North Carolina area. And so it's been an exciting whirlwind tour. Things are shaking up all over the world at this point, which there's not any news to you gentlemen or any of your listeners. So very excited that we're going to be speaking about some of these things, because it appears that the heavens are crying out. It's time to lift up our eyes. Things are shaking down on a global scale, and it looks like the New World Order, the Novus Ordo Seclorum, that was denied. I heard about it when I was 8 years of age, and that is nearly about 55 years ago when I first began hearing about it, and it was denied all this time. Well, now the President of the United States has openly declared that we have now begun the New World Order. There's nothing they think can be done about it, and that they are going to be destined to rule the earth. But I think the scriptures tell us that their reign is going to be brief, it's going to be bloody, and the King of Kings is going to circumvent their plans for an entire global prison planet and turning everyone but themselves back into absolute abject slavery. So we see this thing spoken of in the scripture, in the book of the Revelation, also Yeshua giving us some precursors earlier, which is recorded by Matthew and Luke, but his revelation to Yohanan, John, so that the servants of the Messiah would know specifically the things, the order of events that were going to take place. This was something that he revealed to Yohanan, and this is something that we see going down right according to plan before our very eyes today. So I'm very thankful that your program is there to alert people to these things and give the servants of the Messiah an opportunity to understand these things. Most of the world, even if they hear them, they're not going to listen. Those who are not really servants of the Messiah, it's going to go in one ear and out the other. But those who are truly his servants and live for him, that's what the book of the Revelation that's what was written to. So that's why we see so many ridiculous interpretations of it that has been put out throughout history, because it's people that don't even fit in that category attempting to understand a book that wasn't even written to them. So it's good to be with you, gents.
Well, it's a blessing. And for those who just tune in, we have Mr. Michael Rood, who's traveling all over the world, a minister who have insight concerning modern-day prophecy, along with some key, I would call spiritual intel on what's going on in the world as far as the Illuminati and the secret society that's running the earth under Satan. I would like to ask you a question, sir. You come in from Jerusalem. What is your take on the Synagogue of Satan, where the Most High, when he sent his son Christ to speak of those who say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan? And what hand do they play in this new world order with the world leaders? What is your take on what's going over there with Zionism?
There are a couple of ways to look at that scripture that is being quoted, which is in the book of the Revelation, and in two very legitimate ways to look at that particular thing, and that is and that particular statement is found in one of the letters that's addressed to one of the assemblies. And this the synagogue of Satan that they say is being spoken of that is within the body of believers there, one can easily be understood as the terminology Jew and the terminology Israel back in the first century was used very much interchangeably. We see that Paul, or Shaul more properly, used those terms interchangeably, but yet he understood the difference between Jew and Israel. Israel, of course, being the larger body of Israel. Jew, of course, that Jew is really a Middle English term that even the term Judean, Yehudian, which is in the scriptures, the first time it shows up is at the end of the book of the Kings period, and it is those who lived in the area of Judea, the lower kingdom, which had escaped the hand of Shalmaneser, also known as Sennacherib, and was not carried away into exile during the days of Hezekiah, but later under Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar came in and carried away the people of Judea and took them away into the land of Babylon for the duration of 70 years, so that not only was the prophecy of Moses fulfilled, which is the prophecy of Moses is that if you do not let the land rest in the Shemitah, or the Sabbath year, that your enemy is going to come, carry you away captive into another land, and while you are gone, the land will rest. And so we have that prophecy by Moses that Ezekiel and Jeremiah both elaborate later on, after the entire period of the kings, more than 490 years. We never kept the Sabbath year, so we were literally Judea was carried away captive into Babylon for that period so that the land could rest. And those people that were carried away later became known as Jews, and this is a kind of a nomenclature that stuck with them. It was primarily those of the lower kingdom, which did include some from the northern kingdom, but the northern kingdom of Israel, which were the 10 northern tribes, were basically, well, it says in the scripture that they were all carried away, but when the word all is used, it's a lot of times it's not all inclusive of every single last person. There would have been people that saw some of this coming and fled down into Judea, would later become known as Jews. But these two separations must be understood in order to understand the end-time Bible prophecy. Now, if you use that term interchangeably, as Paul does in the first century, then you could say there are those who are say that they're Israel, but they're not, but of the Synagogue of Satan, and the assembly, the Synagogue of Satan. That's one usage of that, where you can see that even today we're dealing with the same thing in the body of believers. There are those who say that they are Israel, that they've been grafted into Israel, which is what Gentiles have been welcomed to graft into Israel, become part of Israel, not become part of Pharisaic Judaism, that cult that basically took over the majority of the religious influence in Israel in the first century, not that cult that was developed by the Pharisees, but Israel. And just as Shaul says, not all who are Israel are Israel. Just because they're bloodline Israel does not mean that they are really princes with God, that they really have been grafted in, that they've gotten rid of their paganism, that they're Gentiles, and fully gotten grafted in. They say that they're Israel, but they're not Israel at all. They just they want to say, and some of them want to come in and they want to say they are Israel, or they replaced Israel, but they didn't replace Israel either. Israel, who is the Israel of God, Gentiles have always been welcome in, and that grafting in process is something that is well noted in the New Testament time. So on one hand, gentlemen, I would assert to you that we can say this as we can say it today. There are those who say that they're Israel, that they have been grafted into to the body through, and you don't have to be, of Israel bloodline, through the blood of Messiah, through what he did. The door was opened up for the Gentiles to freely be grafted in without going through any man-made hoops at all. This is a divine grafting in. And there are those who say they're Israel, but they're not. But now, if we take a look at it the other hand, we see that there are those who say that they are Jews, that they are Judeans, that they are of that princely line of Judah, but they are not. They are literally of the Synagogue of Satan in what they have determined to do. They are the ones, and you can see a mastermind level of those who say they're Jews, but these people certainly are not princes with the one true God at all. And I think that it's not a stretch of the imagination to say that the family of the Rothschilds and what they have done historically, even though they are bloodline Jews, maybe bloodline Jews, yet where we find them is in the major conspiracy to control all the money in the world, because money buys power, and whoever controls the issuing of money, they are the masters. And as it was eloquently said by Lord Rawchaa, I certainly use that with a great deal of sarcasm. Lord Rawchaa said, give me control over a nation's money supply, and I care not who the people elect, because the ones who control the purse strings are the ultimate rulers. And we have seen that the United States of America, for instance, we are under what is called the Federal Reserve System, which has nothing to do with the U.S. government. It is a band of private bankers that it was signed into law during the days of Woodrow Wilson that they would be the ones to print and control money. And it was Wilson himself, the president at that time, who says, I have, by signing the banking bill into legislation, giving the world bankers, the Rothschilds, the Federal Reserve, giving them control over the nation's money, he says, I have unwittingly destroyed my country. And from that point on, we were under receivership to the world bankers, and the United States of America, the entire economy is held together by the whim of these great and notable people whose desire is to bring all of the world under their final authority, where they are themselves the rulers of planet Earth and the rulers over mankind. That is what I would call under the Synagogue of Satan, I would call that Zionism, and I would definitely separate that from the Zionism and that term which is used of the people that sincerely want to come back to the land that was promised by the Almighty, the land from the Euphrates to the Nile that belongs to the children of Abraham through Israel, and to reestablish that nation in righteousness and to govern themselves, even though that land is a lot of it owned by the Rothschilds, even though a family, there are about 5 people or families, basically are owning the entire economic system in the land of Israel. I think there is a Zionism that is too frequently tied into international Zionism, or ruling the world, through the communist ideal. But there will never be the communist ideal. That's a farce. It is communism and socialism we're seeing that's being brought into the United States through the puppet masters of Obama is nothing but a totalitarian government designed to reduce the world to slavery. So those are my 2 takes on, first of all, the term Zionism, and also the Synagogue of Satan in the book of Revelation. And of course, the book of Revelation gives us really the stripping off of the seals, the countdown to how full control of this earth is gained by Satan under those who have bowed the knee to Satan, as Yeshua was offered and refused. But there have been those throughout history who have bowed the knee to Satan, and they've said, "Yes, we will do your will, O Master." There you have him as Lord, just as the Dark Lord Rawchaa and his cohorts who are currently doing their complete plan for global domination.
Well, okay. For brothers and sisters worldwide, we have Mr. Michael Rood on, and thank you for your answer. The reason why we pose this question is because we notice that there's a great awakening over around the whole earth. People really want to know what's going on in Freemasonry. People want to know what's going on with the Zionist agenda, and in particular, Mr. Rood, everyone at this point the majority of people know that the president really runs absolutely nothing in this earth, and it's more so a figurehead to keep the population busy or distracted while the real unseen hands work. And what we would like to do, and we notice you do some of this yourself, is tie in things that most people can't see to show everyone how real the Bible is and how on point the prophecies are. And speaking of that, I see a lot of people online and all over there going into the Illuminati and Masonry and still not able to tie this in. And what led me, the segue to my question is what I read not too long ago, and maybe you can help me with this when it comes to Masonry's hand in this New World Order agenda under Satan. We ran into some information we had on the show not too long ago, and I would like your opinion on it. Mr. Albert Pike, who actually have a statue, and right around the corner from the White House, we have a few quotes based on a personal letter that he wrote to Manzini in 1871, which actually predicts, let me run through these real quick, and I want your opinion on this, because we did some research and we realized this agenda of the New World Order is quite an old agenda. In this letter to Manzini, he wrote these are quotes from the Mason who has a statue around the corner from the White House. He wrote, "The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the Tsars in Russia, and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by the agenda or the agents of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments in order to weaken the world religions." The second point he wrote to Manzini in 1871, this Mason who was operating within the United States, "The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel and Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agenda of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world." That's where we are now. "The war must be conducted in a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm. which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effects of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude disillusioned with Christianity, whose decent spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. Now, the reason I brought this up to you, sir, is because I noticed, and I was raised in a Christian church, mainly Baptist church, and I was perplexed when I ran into this information because I thought at one time that the state of Israel was actually prophesied to be restored according to the Bible, and I was totally perplexed when I found out that the state of Israel was a political agenda set up through Masonry to bring in Lucifer's program. The World War III that leads to the total cataclysm or the conflict between Christendom and Islam was actually spoken about through the Masonic agenda that began the New World Order in 1776. You know that the Masons, Satanists, were also amongst the so-called founding fathers. When you see material like this, and I'm sure you ran into that, and you look at the Illuminati, the state of Israel, and see that everything that Albert Pike wrote in this letter is actually being done in the world by the world leaders today. What's your take on that in your, in identifying because you already brought out the Rothschilds and their power over the money. Whoever controls the money controls the world. So we know that there's an agenda not only with the Masonry, but also Zionism, and this program is strictly under Satan. What do you think about this letter that was wrote by Albert Pike that's unfolding before our eyes?
The situation with the Freemasonry, even though the original founding fathers and George Washington, of course, being among the Freemasons at that time, as you are pointing out, with Giuseppe Mazzini and Albert Pike, the confluence, the coming together of Freemasonry and the Illuminati was not accomplished until the days after the United States Civil War. And, of course, this is where we find ourselves in 1871, right after the American Civil War, and one of the officers of the Civil War, Albert Pike, and Giuseppe Mazzini, melding together the Illuminati and the goals of the Illuminati with Freemasonry. So Freemasonry has just stepped right in with this entire thing, and Freemasonry is what was being used again by the Illuminists to get their plan about here in the United States of America. Now, the destruction of the Tsar, Bolshevism, that entire operation was financed by world bankers, Rothschild, J.P. Morgan, right out of New York. The whole thing was paid for out of the United States of America. But it was, again, the world bankers. That's just where the pool of money and gold was in order for them to finance that side of the war. And as we know, that the Rothschilds have financed both sides of conflicts, and it doesn't matter who wins or who loses, they are always the winner. And so we can follow their handiwork all the way through. Now, it's very interesting that not only did they have the restoration of the state of Israel, but also the entire plan and the statement for Islam to be the final of these wars. And what people are encouraging me, I'm writing another book at this time to to refer to as World War III, I understand very specifically. Now, we have to understand, first of all, who is at the head of this, of the Illuminati. It is exactly what Pike was speaking of, that Christianity and atheism will both be destroyed, and everyone will be brought into the fullness of the light of a Luciferian one-world government, where everyone will bow the knee to Satan, to Lucifer, and that is the final goal of what they're doing. But that does not negate that even in the Scripture, this last war that's going to happen, this is not Armageddon. This next war, I should say, that is going to transpire, and this is years before Armageddon, this is what brings Islam into the entire fracas. So Satan does know there are things that he knows that he has been working on, and one of those things is the prophetic profusion of information that is in the prophets that the nation of Israel will be restored, and they will be brought back into their own land. Not only Judea, but also the nation of Israel, the people of Israel, who have been scattered all over the face of the earth, primarily through the act of Shalmaneser, and then as the northern 10 kingdoms, which is, again, many times larger than the Jews or Judeans, as they were taken out and scattered throughout the land of Sumer, Babylon, what is now Iran, Iraq, Syria, and beyond, that these people it was prophesied by the prophets that they would be brought into their own land, and that the land that was promised to Abraham's offspring by an everlasting covenant, that would be fulfilled in the last days. And Abraham was even put to sleep as if to signify it wasn't even going to be up to him or his offspring. That Abraham would be dead and in the grave, and there's no hope for the restoration of Israel, but that the Almighty said that he would restore them. And this is what kicked off what I call the annulment of the covenant with death spoken of in Isaiah. Isaiah speaks of not only Israel becoming a nation in one day, but that Israel becoming a nation in one day, that was brought about by way of the United Nations. May 15th, 1948, Israel became a nation in one day. It was an act of the United Nations, but as Isaiah said, has anyone ever heard such a thing? Since the beginning of time, have you ever heard that a nation is born at once? For as soon as Zion travails, she shall bring forth her children. And well over 100 years ago, in the United States of America at least, there were evangelicals. There were those Bible students, serious Bible students, that even though the world said, for the most part, Rome and their offspring, the protesting Catholics, also known as Protestants, they were all saying that, no, we are Israel. There is no more Israel. God is finished with the nation of Israel. Now he has chosen other people, and none of his promises to Israel, they've all been either terminated completely or now they apply only to Gentiles who have a religion that looks just like Babylonian sun worship and can't hardly tell the difference in many cases. But there were those that stood up at that time and said, no, if God can terminate his eternal promises with Israel, then none of us are safe, because all of our eternal promises that even Christians hold on to, they can't even be depended upon if the Almighty can renege on his eternal covenant with Israel. And so they said Israel will become a nation in one day. Now, many people for years, they question, well, could this act of the United Nations, this satanic, illuminist organization, could this actually be the agent whereby the Almighty brings to pass this ancient prophecy? And one of the big keys on this, gentlemen, was that we see everything that's been done by the Almighty, everything of major circumstance and event in Yeshua's life and ministry was a fulfillment or intermediate fulfillment of one of the feasts of the Lord, or elements within that particular feast that occur on that particular day. And as Paul says, that the feasts of the Lord are all prophetic shadow pictures of good things to come. Now, we in the Western world, we have grown up in complete ignorance of the feast of the Lord. We have inherited Easter, which is the name of Semiramis, who is the wife of Nimrod, who was reincarnated on the first Sunday after the vernal equinox, when the gods from heaven sent Semiramis back down to earth in a giant egg, which plummeted into the Euphrates River. The egg burst open, and out emerged Nimrod's wife, reincarnated as Easter, the bare-breasted sex goddess of Babylon, who turned a bird into an egg-laying rabbit. Now, this has been thoroughly inculcated into the paganized churchianity through Rome, and then, of course, Christmas is the other high day. It was not called Christ Mass, it was called Child Mass, and that was a day of child sacrifice at the time of the winter solstice, when Nimrod was purportedly reincarnated as little baby Tammuz on December 25th. On the ancient Babylonian calendar, that was the winter solstice. Now it's around December 21st, but now that pagan sun god worship has gone all over the world, we keep on celebrating all of the birthdays of the pagan gods, such as Ra, the Egyptian sun god, Jupiter, and Zeus, the Greek sun gods, Mithra, the Roman sun god, and Tammuz, the Babylonian sun god. All of their birthdays December 25th. It's just pure pagan sun god worship, and that, again, has been twisted into now somehow the birthday of Yeshua, or Jesus. So, we have inherited all of this paganism that got inculcated into Christianity, and so we've grown up knowing nothing about the Feast of the Lord, and that this is the time clock, this is literally a mechanism whereby the Almighty has told the end of time from the very beginning. And it was not until the year 2005 that at that time I was completing the work that had been going on for me for 35 years, which is the restoration of the ancient biblical calendar back in the first century. The modern Jewish calendar that we have today is not the biblical calendar. It was invented in 359 of the Common Era by the Sanhedrin down in Tiberias, right down below my house in Israel. The last act of the Sanhedrin before going into exile was to create a calculated calendar that they said we will all keep the feast scattered all over the world by way of that calendar, and then we will go back to the original Creator's calendar when the Messiah comes. Well, it turns out that the Almighty, and not only did not give them the authority to do that, Yeshua spoke openly against that. He said, do not follow the takanot, in Hebrew, of the Pharisees, and actually created the calendar of the Pharisees in 359. They literally stated they were making takanot, or a law that they said changed biblical law. Well, Yeshua said, whenever they make takanot, don't follow them. And so Yeshua himself said, do not follow the calendar when the Pharisees change it 300 years from now. I mean, he could have almost have said those exact words. But yet, the restoration of that calendar finally brought us to the conclusion that Israel did become a nation in one day on the final day of the counting of the Omer. We were told all the way back in the Torah that every year we are to count the 7 Sabbaths that go from the day of the Bikurim, the first fruit offering during the Feast of Unleavened Bread. We are to count 7 Sabbaths. And then the day after the 7th Sabbath, it is the first day of the week, and that is where we celebrate the counting of these sevens. It turns out that even though the entire world was ignorant of the Creator's calendar, that the rabbis had no idea what the Creator's calendar was anymore, that Israel became a nation in one day, fulfilling the prophecy of Isaiah, and it transpired on the seventh Sabbath of the counting of the Omer. Not according to the rabbinic calendar, but according to the original Creator's calendar, letting us know that the Almighty, even though the United Nations, this demonic, satanic, Luciferian group, destined and with their designs to rule the world, put it in place and said at 1800 hours Washington, D.C. time, May 15th, 1948, Israel becomes a nation. What they in fact said without their knowing is on the seventh Sabbath of the counting of the Omer, and that year Israel becomes a nation in one day, fulfilling the prophecy of Isaiah. Now we can go ahead in time and see in the book of the Revelation, we can see that all of the nations typified by the lion and by the ox and all these different things, that the bear, etc., that were spoken of in the prophecy of Daniel concerning the last days, we move ahead in time and see every one of these nations is fully Islamic. Every single one of them. Now, of course, Rome had a lot to do with this, with Fatima and this whole thing. You know, if it were not outside the purview of Rome, there would be no Islam. There is no God such as Allah. I mean, it's a fictitious moon god, for God's sake. Muhammad was a pedophile. He wasn't a prophet. He was a pedophile plagiarist who took some things out of the Bible in order to juice up his story. One guy wrote the whole God-damned book. And I use that term very specifically, God-damned, Yahweh-damned. This book is an absolute travesty. It is the sickest bunch of plagiarism you could ever imagine. It is not a holy book, even though the President of the United States calls it the Holy Quran. And he tries to pronounce it and does it with a perfect Arabic accent. And this thing is anything but holy. It is a vile book of plagiarism, but yet that which is helped to be created by the Roman Catholic Church, these are the people groups that were prophesied by Daniel. Everyone shows up in the book of Revelation, and we see that the name of blasphemy spoken of in the book of the Revelation, the name of literally of insult, there is no greater name of insult than that which is found on the Iraqi flag today. Before the United States and the United Nations was involved in Iraq, in overthrowing Iraq, this was not so. But now that we stuck our nose into this, and the world bankers and the Illuminati and the agents of the Illuminati, those who control the U.S. government, now, for the first time in Israel, the name of insult is on the Iraqi flag. Allahu Akbar. Allah is greater. And that very word, Allahu Akbar, that very title, which is the confession, part of the confession of Islam, would not be there if it weren't for the Illuminati. It would not be there had it not been for the Catholic Church and the agents of the whore of Rome. And we yet see this play out in the book of Revelation with absolute uncanny accuracy. The name of insult is with a battle cry of what will become the Third World War, which the United States was the one who instigated this thing when the World Trade Centers went down, which is also prophesied by Zechariah. This will go nuclear, as prophesied by Zechariah, who Zechariah himself gives the exact dimensions of the modern-day Scud missiles and the Shaheen missiles, the exact dimensions that will carry an evil fire offering encased in lead, which will incinerate entire buildings, including the wood and stone, and leave behind a deadly residue. Zechariah saw it by revelation. We see it in the book of Revelation. And even though the Albert Pike, in his letter to Giuseppe Mazzini, at the time of the melding together of the Illuminati through the Italian political religious organization, and Albert Pike with the political side in the United States, we see that even they are falling into the hands and the plan of the Almighty that was prophesied long, long ago. So I believe that what this is saying, that the Almighty is in charge of this physical universe. They can make their plans, they can bow the knee to Satan, yet the Almighty will have His way. And, as I say, 4,000 years ago, the Creator of the heavens and the earth made an everlasting covenant with Abraham. All of the land, from the Euphrates to the Nile, belongs to the sons of Israel. It doesn't belong to the Zionist Illuminati, or the agents of the Illuminati, or the Masons. It belongs to the sons of Israel. And even though they are bringing about their plan for the world in this day and time, it's just as it says in Psalm 2, one of the greatest prophetic voices that continues to echo out through the generations, that the kings of this earth and the rulers of this earth have conspired together against Jehovah and against His Messiah, saying, let us cast their bands from us. Let's remove the shackles that the Almighty has placed on the hands of the Almighty, that we are going to rule the world. It says the Almighty, even though they have planned, even though they have schemed, even though they have the vast majority of mankind completely duped, it says the Almighty will have them in complete derision. He will laugh at their plans. He is going to bring their kingdoms to nothing, and that His Messiah will rule over the earth with a rod of iron, and that is the rod of iron I'm looking for, not the rod of iron of the Illuminati, who has bowed the knee to Satan, who is currently in charge of things. So that, in a nutshell, thank you for letting me ramble on, but that, in a nutshell, is how I see that this, even Satan's plan, finally falls into the plan of the Almighty, and finally the restoration of paradise that we were kicked out of in the beginning because of Lucifer.
Okay. Oh, well, we thank you. Hey, I'll tell you what. We have Michael Rood here tonight, our distinguished guest. Soon we're going to open up the lines. We feel a lot of you have some questions. Getting back to, and we want to make sure we stay here, because what we try to do is identify, because we notice, and I'm just speaking in general, outside of you, Mr. Rood, real quick. We're speaking in general. We notice that when we hear Alex Jones, of course, Alex Jones brings a lot of great information, and I'm sure that there's things that he would like to say, and if he said it, would probably mean the end of him actually, waking people up. You understand? Certain things he understands is controlled, and he do the best he can with what he has. But we're not under those restrictions. So let me put this out there real quick, all right? So far, we wanted to know, what is this Zionist tie to the Illuminati? Because people say bankers, people say the elite. It's usually shrouded in ambiguity, in which no one can really identify who's actually bringing forth Satan's program within the earth. So what we have here, is, like I mentioned earlier, we have Masons who spoke of this New World Order over a century before what we see today. We have Masons actually sitting down saying, we're going to plan these wars to actually create a state in Palestine. All right. Now, of course, we have Mr. Rood come and says, well, maybe this was birthed, even though Satan had a hand in this, Israel was birthed out of that. We're going to get there in a moment. But before we go any further, I would like to name, because I know as well as those who listen to this show today, Mr. Rood understands the mark of the beast, and I've actually went and looked into some of his talk, some of his speeches, and he understands the mark of the beast will come on the earth, in which no man could buy or sell, and we understand that the banks are tied into that, because you cannot buy or sell without money. So what I would like to do, I would like to do a runoff real quick, and I need your answer to this, Mr. Rood. We're going to look at who's leading the world financial systems all over the earth that will bring it into one world order, and which, once the money Once the money is pulled out of the system, the mark of the beast will be instituted. So let's see who's actually behind setting up the bank system for the beast, for Satan himself. The Federal Reserve bankers. Let's go down the line since everyone say bankers. Let's put a face on these bankers. Number 1, Rothschild's Bank of London and Berlin. Number 2, Lazard Brothers Banks of Paris. Number 3, Israel Moses Cease Banks of Italy. Number 4, Warburg Bank of Hamburg and Amsterdam. Number 5, Lehman Brothers of New York. Number 6, Kuhn Lowett Bank of New York. Now it's Shearson's American Express. Number 7, Goldman Sachs of New York. Number 8, National Bank of Commerce, New York. Morgan Guaranty Trust, J.P. Morgan Bank, Equitable Life, Levi P. Morgan are principal shareholders. Number 9, Hanover Trust of New York, William and David Rockefeller, and Chase National Bank of New York are principal shareholders. Now, listen to this. Bringing in this New World Order, because we understand that they signed the Declaration of Independence in 1776. But did you know in 1791, between 1791 and 1811, the Rothschilds set up their first bank of the United States? So what was connected to the founding fathers' founding of America? You got it. The first bank established in the United States. To show you that the mark of the beast and the whole foundation that would actually prepare for this was operating behind closed doors with particular people. Now let's go to 1816 to 1836, where the Rothschilds set up a second bank of the United States. 1837 to 1862, we had no formal central bank through the efforts of, we know, President Andrew Jackson. Between 1862 and 1913, systems of national banks went through the efforts of President Andrew Jackson. So obviously they started twisting some arms. 1913, the current Federal Reserve Act, which Mr. Rood spoke eloquently about earlier, affects a consortium of privately held Jewish and associated banks called the Federal Reserve. The largest shareholders of the Federal Reserve are the Rothschilds of London, holding 57% of the stock, which is not available for public trading. So that tells us that even though they're teaching people in the United States that there's been a revolutionary war, that America is separate from London, really it's still being run by the Queen. On May 23, 1933, Congressman Louis T. McFadden brought impeachment charges against the members of the Federal Reserve. I'm just giving you some dates here. Now, here are those who are in control of the money today. Number 1, Ben Shalom Bernanke, and I'm not saying that facetiously, that's his name. Ben Shalom, which is peace, Bernanke. Chairman of the Board of Governors of Federal Reserve. His term ends in 2020. Number 2, Donald L. Kahn, Vice Chairman of the Board of Governors of Federal Reserve. His term ends in 2016. Number 3, Randall S. Krasner, member of the Board of Governors of Federal Reserve. Frederick L. Mishkin, member of the Board of Governors of Federal Reserve, terms ends at the end of this year. Alan Greenspan, who was the leader of the Federal Reserve for many years, is now the recent chairman over the Federal Reserve. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this in is because as we can see what's organized within this New World Order, the Illuminati plan of world domination and bringing all banks together to institute the mark of the beast, is the same operation of people through bloodline since the inception of what we call the United States and the New World. So if that's the case, Mr. Rood, and we're speaking of the Synagogue of Satan, those that are operating under Satan's program, you can see that that's a dichotomy if people are looking at this and saying, well, in one hand, I'm hearing that these people are the people of Israel. On the other hand, we know that since the inception of the beginning of the United States, they have been working with Satan to bring forth Satan's program. Who are they, Mr. Rood? And the reason I'm asking this is because we ran into some history. Listen to me clearly. We ran into some history that brings them being Israel according to prophecy and bloodline into question. We understand that anyone can convert into Judaism. Matter of fact, a rabbi came on to one of our radio shows and asked me that I want to convert into Judaism. We understand that there's a basketball player, and I've spoken to him, a great brother, Amari Sotomayor, have converted into Judaism, and now most people, even in Israel, call him Jewish today. Our question to you, Mr. Rood, could it be that these people that are Jewish people or practicing Judaism are in fact the Romans that converted into Judaism under the Khazarian Empire?
Yeah, anything is possible. However, if we look at it, Israel, it's not even necessary for these people to not be Israel, because you can be of Israel and still not be the chosen and following the one true God. There's just as we saw among the Pharisees. Now, this is long before the whole Khazarian concept came up, Arthur Koestler's the 13 tribes, all that, which I studied that stuff more than 40 years ago in seminary. And long before that, we had the Pharisees that Yeshua said, I know you're of Abraham's seed. Still, you are the sons of the devil. You are liars, you're deceivers, you're murderers, and the truth is not in you. You can't possibly do the truth. He was acknowledging that they were actually of Abraham's bloodline, but yet to call them the seed of Satan, the children of the devil. There's another term that's used more frequently, the sons of Belial, and this is used of liars, stealers, those who are sexual perversion, and we are talking about proven bloodlines of Israel, such as the Benjamites. There's a group of homosexuals who are called sons of Belial. We have Eli's two sons, and they are not only Israel, they're not only Levites, they are of the bloodline of Aaron, the priest, yet they are called sons of Belial as well, because they were not only perverted, they were liars, they were cheats, but yet they were actually bloodline priest line. So we see that these terms of ultimate despondency and the ultimate of insults was actually back in the first century, long before there were any Khazars that could possibly have converted into Judaism. And we do know that the Khazars that they did, there were many that converted into Judaism. But again, to say that these Khazars have become all of the world bankers and all that, I think that is a great stretch of the imagination. I think that, we have bloodline Israel who has turned and have become sons of Belial, have become of your father, the devil, even though they are of Abraham. This is, just the biblical record on this of how these terms are used. So I do not see that, and especially to turn all these people, and I know, I went to a school in which the president attempted to turn all the modern day Jews into Khazars, and they're not really of Judah. And of course, he was so thoroughly disproven because bloodline genealogies are something very precious to the Jewish people, especially, not just big sense, but all the way through history. These bloodline descendants, these become very important coming out of Babylon in the days of Ezra and Nehemiah. And there's an entire book called the Book of Genealogies that the rabbis literally hid. You know, it was and they did it because the year from creation could actually be calculated by using that particular book, and so that was removed from circulation. But the rabbis still know what year it really is. It's not the year that they state on the modern Jewish calendar. So, you know, where I look at this is that when Satan came to Yeshua, he showed to tempt him. It says that he showed him all the kingdoms of this world in a moment of time. And it says, Satan says, all the wealth, all the power, all the glory of this world has been given into my hands. It's been delivered unto me. And to whomsoever I will, I give it. You bow down and worship me, and it's all yours. Everything. The world is yours. It's been delivered to me. Now, Yeshua did not challenge Satan's jurisdiction. He didn't say, no, it wasn't delivered in your hands. No, you don't have it. He simply says, no, I'm not going to bow down to you. I will not do your will. I'm not going to go your way. And after that, Satan departed from him. He gave him the best shot. He offered him the entire world, all the wealth, the power, and the glory of this world, if he would just bow the knee. Now, we see in the book of Revelation that that which is typified is the title deed of this world in the hands of the Almighty, bound with 7 seals, that John, you know, breaks down in just weeping in front of the throne, in the midst of the 24 elders, the awesome living creatures. He just breaks down weeping because the angel said that no one has the ability or authority to take the seals, rip them off, and open the book. No one can do it. And he just begins to weep uncontrollably. And then finally, Yeshua walks forward, and the other angel cries out, behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah has prevailed. He alone has the authority to strip the seals. And Yeshua begins stripping the seals off the title deed of this world that has been delivered unto Satan, and he legally has control of this world at this time. He is referred to as the God of this age. And there have always been people who have bowed the knee to Satan, saying, yes, Master, I will do your will. And a lot of these are the most intelligent people in the world. Yeah, and no one can question this statement. The nation with the highest percentage of the greatest inventions, technological inventions, real Nobel Prize winners, not this ridiculous Peace Prize that is in every box of Cracker Jacks like what Obama got, but I mean people who really have excelled and have done good things for the human race. It comes out of the lineage of Israel, and many of them come out of Kohanim and out of Levites, because they were the ones that were chosen to be the physicians, to be the teachers, and empowered by the Almighty in those roles. But when these people go astray, they also become the masters of evil. You take a look at who invented the nuclear weapons. They were priests of Israel. If you don't have them busy doing fire offerings on the altar in Jerusalem, they're going to do a fire offering some other way, and they're the ones that invented the nuclear weapon, which is encased in lead, which is now fitted in these flying containers that Zechariah indicated would be used against the land of Israel in the last day, that would really initiate World War III. So, we really don't have to go with the whole Gazar and the situation. We can actually use Bloodline Israel and see that, and we can see that there is consummate evil within the confines of Pharisaic Judaism, and also there are wonderful, precious people who are in Judaism. I have friends who are rabbis that are into the religion called Judaism today. It's not a biblical-based religion, but a man-made religion. They're into it, and they are wonderful people. So Just like in Christianity, you have people that are absolute evil, and then you have, on the other hand, people that have a tender heart toward God, and they will die before they go against the commandments of the Almighty. So that's going to be my take on it. But I would like to point out that these issues, as you point out, they are not simple. They're very complex issues, and because of that, I did for 35 weeks in a row a 1-hour teaching, which appeared originally on Shabbat Night Live, which is a program that is broadcast in more than 160 countries around the world, but we go live with it on the internet every week. And those 35 episodes are on the internet. They're on our channel and on our website, which is www.aroodawakening.tv. That's A Rood Awakening, spelled R-O-O-D, as my last name, aroodawakening.tv, and they can go to the Shabbat Night Live section and take it 1 week at a time and go right to the teaching, because I go through every single line of the book of the Revelation over that 35 weeks, 35 hours. And so we dissect some of these things that are very complex, and I applaud you in when we're talking about this to actually name the individual banks that are tied in with the Luciferian Illuminati, having that kind of information for people to understand, because people out there do need to understand that this is not put together haphazardly. That what you have done is you have searched out these different tentacles of the New World Order, of the Illuminati. You are defining and describing them so that they can be understood. But you want to now on down the line, it's important that we all understand that once we find out that there is a global plan, that Yeshua has given us a job to do. And that is to preach the gospel of his kingdom to the whole world. That's our job when all this stuff hits the fan, when they are going to be mass murdering believers, executing us. We still have a job to do. But the problem is, sir, is that the Christian world basically doesn't even know what Yeshua taught. They have no idea what the gospel of the kingdom is. They think it's a death, burial, and resurrection, and because that's all they get to hear in church anymore. Yeshua and his disciples were teaching that months before his death. They were teaching the gospel of the kingdom. His disciples were raising the dead, teaching the gospel of the kingdom. And I assert that we need to get back and learn the gospel of the kingdom, and that's why I wrote the chronological gospels, the life and 70-week ministry of the Messiah, to help people not only understand the gospel of the kingdom, but what we're supposed to be doing once we figure out that, yes, we have an evil group that is attempting and will rule the world for a brief time.
Well, Mr. Rood, I really want to touch on a few things, because we understand that the gospel of the kingdom is also identifying the dark forces that are operating in high places. Now, I would like to say this, because I would like to go back to a few things that's mentioned. In St. John 8:4, and then, I'll let you in, and you can say what you got to say. We invited you. You are our guest, and we thank you. And we're going to also open it up, because I'm sure that right after this, a guest would love to have some questions for you. When Christ said in St. John 8:44, "Ye are of your fathers the devil, and the lust of your fathers ye will do," he was a murderer from the beginning. And the truth abide, and they abide not in the truth, because there is no truth in them. We know the murderer from the beginning was Cain. So when Christ was speaking to these Pharisees, this was after what happened under Hyrcanus, after Hyrcanus, really before Hyrcanus, when you had a Roman disposition against the Jews, in which they went in under Antiochus Epiphanes and destroyed the temple and put Gentiles as priests. Predominantly, a lot of them were Idumeans that were placed in the seat of Jews, but they were not Jews. They were actually Idumeans. As a matter of fact, you had Herod the Greek, or who they call Herod the Great, who was there to kill Christ, who we know linked directly to Edom, which is the brother of Jacob. So when Christ is speaking to them and saying that they are of Abraham's stock, Esau was of Abraham's stock also. And I think that Christendom have ignored that point, that a lot of times through the scriptures, Christ is speaking to Edomites. Now, when we go into the Jewish encyclopedia, now I'm not Jewish per se. The Jewish Encyclopedia of 1925 edition, volume 5, part 41, identifies Edom. It says Edom is found in modern Jewry, which means Edom has hid himself amongst modern day Jewry. This is the 1925 edition. The Jewish people put that together. Now, let me make this clear, and I want to make a disclaimer. I'm going to make this clear. I know that all Jewish people are not behind this conspiracy. As a matter of fact, we have Jewish people who have come on the show and others who have told us that the majority of the people that were brought over from Poland and other areas going into Israel, a lot of them went over as migrants for jobs and land and wasn't Jews at all. A lot of them migrated and converted for the sake of finances and colonialism. So I'm not here to say that every person in Israel is bad, that every person, what we're saying is there's lies being taught amongst Christendom that is hiding Satan's work amongst Israel. That's not being identified by Christendom because they're scared to say what's going on and fear being called an anti-Semite. Now, another thing I would like to say here is that, and I'm going straight from Scripture here with you, Mr. Rood, that Israel, if we're going to identify Israel and speak of the restoration of Israel, we should actually be trying to find the true people of Israel according to the prophecies of what would happen to them after being scattered. Not just Levi, not just Benjamin, not just Judah, but all the 12 tribes of Israel, if we're looking to talk about the restoration of Israel. We shouldn't let modern day religion dictate who we identify as the children of God according to prophecy, because all 12 tribes according to bloodline is in the earth. So, I respect everything that you've spoken up until this point, but to some degree, we must acknowledge that there's something hidden in Israel that most people are afraid to talk about. Edom is hidden in Jewry. We cannot ignore the Khazarian imposition. Why? Because the Bible identifies them. Let's make this clear. Barack Obama himself campaigned in front of a replica of the temple of Satan from Turkey. And when you go into Revelation, the 2nd chapter, it says, I know thy works, and I'm here at the 12th verse. And the angel of the church in Pergamos writes, these things say of which hath the sword with two edges. And I know you know this scripture. I know thy works, and where thy dwellest, even where Satan's seat is. When you look at Pergamos, as a matter of fact, in Turkey, they still have the original replica of where the Khazarians and others used to go to worship Satan, Satan's temple, still in Turkey. We looked at Pergamos, and guess where that was? That's in Turkey. And that's where they found the capital of Khazaria. The bloodline of the leaders that you're speaking of, saying that they're Levi, are actually the czars of Khazaria. They're actually the bloodline of the Romans who hid themselves so that no one could identify them, so that they continue as children of the serpent to operate against the children of light. So what we're saying, brother, is that, listen, we all have a piece in this work because it's a body of Christ. And there's no particular piece more important than the other. But the piece that the Most High blessed us with is the gospel. And that's why we have you on, brother, to say, listen, if you're going to champion any part of Israel in the restoration of Israel, you cannot do so until you first be able to identify all 12 today. Now, I'm going to ask you a question before we open up the line for it, because we actually have found those 12, sir. And offline or whatever, we can share this with you. But we didn't let the modern day Satan's hand in religion stop us from researching this further, because we understand there's a conspiracy under Satan to eradicate a bloodline, a physical bloodline of the children of God who is suffering in this earth. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, and then, of course, the lines will open, Mr. Rood.
Okay.
Is it prophet? Now, we're going into prophecy, and as you can see, I respect your spiritual prowess and what you've researched and the years you've researched. But, brother, I've been there a few years with you, all right? I'm going to ask you this. Is it prophesied anywhere that Israel will be restored before the Messiah returns? Or did it say that the Messiah would return the children of Israel?
It tells us that Israel will wake up in their exile and they will loathe themselves for the abominations that they inherited.
Sir, what I'm asking you in specific, did it say that Israel would be restored before the Messiah? Or did the scripture say that the Messiah will restore Israel?
It's not specific. You know, we know that the Messiah is going to restore Israel, but as far as Israel,
in Isaiah the 11th chapter, it's specific.
Okay, well, you can pick out a verse in which it would be specific. You can also say that from what is spoken of in the gospel period as well, that the Messiah will restore. You know, that's a question that the disciples have. Just before the ascension, we at this time restore Israel to the nation, or the nation to Israel. I mean, you could go both ways on that from the Greek. And of course, he says it's not for you to know the times or seasons the Father's put in his own hands, but do this. Because, you know, you've been given a job to do. Don't concern yourself with that specific thing. You know, the preaching of the gospel, the kingdom, is part of that restoration, is calling Israel back to the worship of the true God. Now, I'm going to say something harsh, and it's important that anyone Jewish out there understands it, because I am Jewish, but Judaism is a bastard religion. Rabbinic Judaism is not a biblical religion. It is completely a man-made religious system that it's based on adding to and subtracting from the Torah, whereas the Torah, the foundational commandment in all the Torah, is that no one ever has the authority to add to or subtract from the commandments we are given at Mount Sinai. And Yeshua himself says the same thing, that, you know, follow Moses, do not follow the Takanot-Masim, the Pharisees. And, of course, in Christianity, you got the same thing. You've got, you know, you don't have a true biblical religion. You have something bastardized with Babylonian sun god worship through Rome. And so restoring Israel is not necessarily talking about restoring the nation. Restoring Israel is restoring Israel and people to the worship of the true God. And throughout history, Edomites could become very much as much Israel as the mixed multitude coming out of Egypt became all of Israel. It's not according to bloodline as far as who gets in. A pygmy headhunter from the tribe of Zulu can be just as much Israel as someone from King David's lineage. The bloodline is not the primary thing. It's those who respond to and get grafted into Israel. That is what has been throughout all time. Not grafted into Judaism. You get grafted into Judaism, it isn't going to do you any good. Grafted into Judaism is grafted into a false religion. And grafted into Christianity. Christianity is a false religion. It is being grafted in to the true vine and the worship of the true God and being obedient to His commandments, which is an end result. I mean, being obedient to His commandment is not even, that's not the door that you go in through. But anyone who does go in through the door, their heart will be changed, and they will then follow the one true God. So, Yeshua showed us the door. He told His disciples to get that, show the world the door, and that's where I spend most of my time. Even though, I did spend that 35 hours doing the entire Revelation series. And as I mentioned, I applaud you for, having, that information at hand to show where these world bankers are. This stuff is reality. And people really need to know all that stuff. And that's why I also took the time in the Revelation series so that people can wake up to what's going on. But for the most part, the entire Christian world is so ignorant of anything Yeshua taught, they have no idea what the gospel of the kingdom that He was teaching, what that is. And that is what I'm attempting to restore in my ministry, is for people to understand the words of Yeshua.
Well, Mr. Rood, we bless him. We thank you. We're going to open up for questions. Before we open them up, I wanted to just say, Mr. Rood, if you can, on your own time, look into Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. And I know you've read it, but I need you to look at it again in connection to this conversation we've had this evening. And I think something will actually click there as far as bloodline, because bloodline is very important. And I'm going to say this crystal clear. It's very important. That's why the Rawchaa, which is the Red Cross, takes blood throughout the four corners of the earth, not to give blood through transfusion. A lot of these so-called elites are vampires. Al Gore was found with a suitcase full of plasma going through an airport. So it's not about the blood and giving it to help people who need blood in an accident. There's not enough accidents in a day for that much blood. They're actually taking a database of blood based on DNA, understanding who's who. So while they're teaching us, it doesn't matter. They're coming up with genetic weapons to kill specific people. And I would like to say this. If bloodline didn't matter, then Christ wouldn't have come to a bloodline. That bloodline had to stay pure so that He could come to save mankind. Also, it tells us in Revelations that the same people who killed Christ, which was a Roman crucifixion, after Christ was crucified, was going after the people who bear the man-child. And the Romans destroyed these people, and they fled and served captivity all over the earth and lost their identity in the meantime. Now, that's why I would like you to look at Deuteronomy 28. Another point I wanted to make when it comes to bloodline, yes, in Romans 11, it talks about the grafting in. But Paul made it clear to the Gentiles who were grafted in, be not high-minded. He warned them to be not high-minded, and when they do get grafted in, because it's not their tree, that they better not boast against the natural branches. And what did Paul say that boast was? That boast is they say that the true branches were cut off that they might be grafted in. So that now it's about everyone else except the bloodline. So Paul made it clear that bloodline is very important. And while they're telling everyone in the world it doesn't matter, they're looking to kill off a promise. Why? Because that promise came through Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. And they understand that bloodline is in the earth. And as long as that bloodline lives physically, there's a promise attached to it. And that's why the queens of England, the Bushes, all these different families that are ruling the earth come from a specific bloodline. They are actually Edom mixed with Canaanite blood, which made the Romans, which made the Greeks, the leaders. So these leaders have hid themselves and they work in the dark against the children of light. So I'm with you absolutely when it comes to we must serve Christ and we must teach the kingdom. But we cannot teach the kingdom, brother, if we can't read Matthew 10 and 5 and 6 when Christ says, go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel and tell them the kingdom is at hand. How can I tell them the kingdom is at hand if I can identify or connect them to their promise? So we must bring this full circle now. We must bring the gospel of Christ in truth. Another book I would like you to look at, Mr. Rood, and it's a great book, Lost Tribes in the Promised Land by Ronald Sanders. With this particular history, we can now teach the gospel. Yes, we can go to the whole world and tell Jew and Gentile alike that if they accept Christ's blood, that there's a place for them. But how much more is the gospel when we can go to some of these remote areas that we think these people are savages or living in third world and believe they're nothing, but really they're suffering the curses because of the sins of their fathers. They are the children of Israel. And I'm going to tell you this, the last battle will not be waged in the Middle East. The last battle is when the UN in this world begin to go against the children that fled in the wilderness. That's why they went from the Middle East, and now the UN is in Africa. We found out, Mr. Rood, that we're the Jews. The black people in America is suffering the curses of Deuteronomy 28. And they have been taken advantage of by the world government in power. And these people have no understanding that through bloodline, they are the children of God. They're running amok. They've been taught in Christianity that they were from the children of Ham. And you and others have been taught that you were Jewish. And it's not your fault. But I'm saying the truth must be proclaimed, Mr. Rood. And we have brought out this history not for hatred, not that someone could hurt someone or go against another. It's about bringing truth and light to the world, because how much more will people come to Christ when they realize there's a promise, not only through them just following Christ, but through bloodline. So that's what we're talking about. If we're going to be talking about the restoration of Israel, we might as well start talking about the restoration, Mr. Rood, of all of Israel. Okay? So, sir, let's open up for questions. I know you want to speak to Mr. Rood, and if you can give us about 10 minutes, sir, because I know the lines they've been lining up since you were going to come on, so I'm going to step out of the way. And,
okay, I see that I did talk a long time, and I'm running on to my next appointment here, but open up the lines.
All right, bless you.
Okay, everybody, you're listening to the Search Engine International. All right, our guest tonight is Mr. Michael Rood, and I'm going to go straight into the call queue. All right, let's go to New York. We have Elder Gabar. Ya Shalom.
Hey, shalom today. How we doing today?
Shalom.
Shalom, Mr. Rood.
Welcome. Shalom, brother. Good to hear you.
Hello.
Good. Shalom. Welcome to the show. I've been a member of this church for almost close to 5 years now, and we have had many different people of different faiths, those even without faith. We have atheists, we have had Muslims, we have discussed different discussions from historical and also religious. But every single time there is the question on who are the lost sheep of the house of Israel. For some reason, that question always I get the same answer, or we always gotten the same answer. It doesn't matter, just follow Jesus. And I think is that we as Christians that already are following Christ, we already understand that. So that we understand is the ultimate perspective of the end result, that we must follow Christ. But I think as Christians, we have to be able to have the ability to do two things at once, and talk about different things. And from my experience, I always feel that when people are questioning who are the lost sheep of the house of Israel, outside of the European Khazarian establishment world Jewry, the question is always answered the same way. Well, it doesn't matter, just follow Jesus. But yet, if you go to every concept, if you go to every corner of the world, there is a group claiming to be descendants of Israel. You got the Igbos in Africa, and the Lalamba, the Ashantis. You got many of the Cherokee Nation in North America claiming to be descendants of Israel. You got a group in India and Japan and things of that nature. And the question, as Christians, are we going to really honestly talk about restoring Israel and also bringing forth the light to the Gentiles? And we could do two things at once. We have to really have an honest discussion on who are the true descendants of Israel, without no bias, with the understanding that ultimately it doesn't matter whether you identify as African American or Jewish or Chinese or Arab or what have you, or like you said, someone from the depth of Africa. If they follow Christ, they're going to be saved. We get that. I buy too. I got it. But I think as Christians, we have to have an honest discussion in regards who are the children of Israel, because regardless whether we all could be saved by the name of Christ, the children of Israel are going to play a very pivotal role in prophecy. So, Mr. Rood, can you elaborate on, other people outside of the European establishment that are claiming to be Jews, and what's your view on them, and what's your view on their also respect or to be respected as God-chosen people outside of the European establishment?
The nation of Israel, India, and the nation of China are all about the same age. Neither India nor China have been uprooted out of their land, carried away into other parts of the world. They've, for the most part, have remained in their land during this period of time. However, yet neither India nor China were given a promise to number like the sands of the sea, the stars of heaven that can't be numbered. That promise was given to Israel. So if Israel, all of Israel, the 12 tribes, were actually resident and stayed within their land and took and expanded all the land from the Euphrates to the Nile, we would expect that number to be about like India and China, about 1 billion apiece. Those who claim to be Jews of Jewish descent is a much. It's a tiny fraction of that number, nowhere near 1 billion people. And so when you have the 10 northern tribes that were taken out of the land and scattered, then to be able to find these people and to find that bloodline would be extremely difficult to do. However, what it does say is that Israel, in their exile, would open their eyes in exile and loathe themselves for the abominations that they inherited, that they would repent, and that they would come back to the worship of the true God. And so, when I go out and teach, when I see that happen, that's when I know that I am talking to one of the lost sheep of the house of Israel. I'm not looking for a color of skin. I'm not looking for a bloodline, white, black, yellow, red man. I'm looking for those whose hearts are to know the true God. And what I see in Christianity, this thing about following Christ, that's for the most part just talk. Nobody does it. Nobody really follows what Yeshua teaches. Most Christians have no idea what he teaches. They've just been given little numbered sound bites out of the New Testament for 40 minutes on a Sunday morning. They wouldn't know anything Yeshua taught from Plato for the most part. They're just not being taught this. So what I do see is that those who really are Israel, they come to repentance and they come out of paganized Christianity. They come out of paganized Judaism. They come out of all the pagan perversions that are out there, and they wake up because they truly are called.
Yeah, and like I said, I think you are a good example, with all due respect, proving my point that we want to have a discussion, but sometimes when we get into the discussion of who are the children of Israel, the same talking point are repeated. It doesn't matter. Just follow Yeshua. Doesn't matter. And I think it's offensive, to be honest with you, that especially for when I speak to either Gentile or either people like yourself, Jew for Jesus, or people that are of the European Jewish sect, that they identify themselves as Jewish. They could go right now and do citizen of their country and be able to worship in their country and things of that nature. But when somebody else outside of that community having that discussion and things of that nature, like the Igbos or the Ashantis and other people of other ethnic groups start having that discussion, I'm a Hebrew. I would like the same right or recognition as a Hebrew as you has. And I think it's not fair and inconsiderate as Christian for you to say, well, it doesn't matter, just follow Yeshua, but yet you're benefiting all the rights as a Jewish man, as someone as being recognized as Jewish. There's many rights that has given to, and many financial aid that has given to many people of the Jewish background, things of that nature. But if somebody's come out of that neighborhood or that particular community and say, well, I've been kept in the Torah for a very long time, there's always a desire to try to disprove that they are descendants of Israel, and not really, and just pacify them. I think it's a bit racist, to my opinion. I think it's a bit selfish, and I think it goes back to maybe perhaps there's, certain people do not want competition or don't want to share in the limelight of being considered of the children of Israel. So, me personally, this is something that, as a Christian, we have to honestly discuss as the body of Christ. That there's been discrimination. There's been discrimination within that particular concept. I think. So I just want you to share your opinions on that.
I think there's a foundational principle here that you may not be aware of. The country of Israel, the nation of Israel, is run. The entire government is run by Pharisees. Okay, and so those of us who are Messianic Jews, we are not welcome there. The Messianic, those who believe in Yeshua, even though they can show that their ancestral bloodline is Jewish, technically Jewish Phariseeism, that their parents or grandparents, they were married by a rabbi, their grandparents were buried in a Jewish cemetery, and all. If you are a Pharisee and have remained a Pharisee, you are welcome to come back to the land of Israel. But if you are not a Pharisee, you don't get in. Let me ask you a question. Have you done research and have you seen evidence? Because I can make a claim that I'm the descendants of buckwheat. It doesn't mean it's true. Have you done the research to prove whether the research or the evidence that they have claimed in regards of this DNA? Because we had a DNA expert in here a few years back, and I could send you the video, the audio on that. It is impossible for you to say, or anyone to say, with certainty that I am a descendant of a particular tribe, or either of Israel or any other tribe. Why? Because the only people that could actually say I am a Shemite, because the word Shem is someone who is the descendants of Shem. It's people like all the Assyrians are descendants of Shem. All the Arabs are descendants of Shem.
Arabs. You got let's go from biblical. Let's go from the biblical perspective. You got the descendants of Ishmael, which are the Arabic people today. They're Shemites. You got the descendants, the brother of Jacob, the Esau. He's a Shemite, which are the descendants of the Romans. You got Moab, Ammon, which are the nephew of Abraham. They're Shemites, which are the Palestinians and the Jordanians today. So
okay.
But what I'm saying what I'm saying is this: when you just proven that you have Shemitic lineage, does not prove that you are a Kohanim or you are a descendant of Israel. The only way possible, and this is what the expert told me in the show, and I'll send you the audio, that the only way we can know for sure, we will have to find a fossil, a well-preserved fossil of a Levi, of a Judite, of a Gadite, to actually know, okay, this is the pure DNA, the pure DNA of a particular tribe of this member. Yeah, go ahead, brother.
Sorry to cut you, but I just want to get you some calls. Mr. Rood will have to be leaving very shortly, and just wanted to get some more calls in real quick. So the line is building up. And,
okay. So that is my exact point. That it's not based on bloodline, the land of Israel. It's based on your religion, and you can be from any bloodline on the planet. As long as you are a Pharisee, you can come into the land of Israel. That's it. It has nothing to do with bloodline today. It's if you're a Pharisee, and even if you are could prove that you are of the bloodline, it doesn't matter if your parents were Pharisees. If they know that you are a believer in Yeshua, you will not get into the land of Israel. And there are cases that are in the Supreme Court, even to this day, about that very issue. So only Pharisees, it's a religion. It's not bloodline in the land of Israel.
Well,
that is the thing I was clarifying.
Well, we will have to confirm that because we have had...
Well, you don't have to confirm it. I'm telling you that.
We have had Jewish people who are Christian, and they are citizens of Israel, and they go back and forth. You don't have to be... It's not an issue of religion. Whether whether you be accepted as a Jewish person.
You have no idea of the process of Aliyah then, as far as gaining entrance into the land of Israel.
Yes,
you have to be a Pharisee.
You will have to show that your parents lived through the Holocaust, or your family has kept some form of Jewish. I would dispute that because we have had other people. Either one of them is incorrect. But you don't. It's not necessarily based on your religion. You have to prove that you come from a descendant of people that survived the Holocaust or Judaism.
That's right. That's Phariseeism.
Let's move it. Let's move it forward.
Okay.
We can get some more callers in. Elder Rawchaa, do you have anything to say here at this point before we take the next call?
No, I really don't have nothing to say on that. Mr. Rood, let me ask you a question real quick. Who are the Romans today?
Who are the Romans today?
Yeah.
You mean the Italian Romans?
No, it's not the Italian.
The Roman Empire went all the way to England.
No, but because what I'm saying is, I've looked at some of your film, and you know that the fourth beast is Rome, and there was 10 horns that came out of Rome, the original 10 states, and which were absorbed into Rome. So what I'm asking you is, who are the Romans today?
Well, the Animali, the Vesui, the Vandals. I mean, that empire went all over Europe. The descendants of those empires came over into the United States of America as well as the Europeans that settled this area.
Yeah, so we understand that Europe, predominantly catapulted and paid by the Roman Catholic Church, is who settled America and founded America. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. The descendants of that empire.
Okay, so let's make it clear that the Europeans are the Romans.
Right? Yeah, that's right. The Hurleys, the Vandals, all that, as I said, goes all the way up in
the only reason I want to put that out there, the only reason I'm putting it out there because when it comes to common sense, you can't have one people be more than one people. You can't, like right now, if someone told me that the East Indians were Rome, I would look at it and laugh them off of this discussion. They'll be off the radio show. Because anybody with any common sense knows that East Indians are not Romans. And see, and that's the way it should be viewed biblically when it comes to everything. You can't tell us the Romans are the Israelites now. You can't tell me that the Romans are the Ishmaelites now. So we have a discussion off here because there's some information I think that if you were to get that, because I know you have every intention to do what you know is right. If we give you the information that we have, we'll share it with you, and then, you know, and you can take it where it leads you. All right. Let's get the regular callers in here. Come on. Bring them in.
First caller, well, second caller is in the 410 area code. Hello, hi. Yeah, caller from the. Sure.
I meant to put it in.
Okay, let's go to the next caller. You have caller from the 901 area code. I'm gonna ask listeners, please, that if you are in the queue, just get ready to go. We don't really have the time to be, you know, to be wasted. All right. So here it is, 901. Hello. Caller from the 901 area code. All right. Next caller from the 443 area code. Go ahead. Hello. Caller from the 443 area code. Okay, just asking here. Can everyone hear me clearly? Elder Rawchaa, Mr. Rood.
I can hear you clearly.
Okay.
I can hear you clearly. Is the lines working on the other side when you bring them in?
Yes, they are working.
All right.
I don't know what's going on. Let me go to the next caller from the 203 area code. Shalom.
Shalom. I didn't really have any questions for the guy who came on today. My question was particularly for Rawchaa. Maybe you can get back to me until this guy gets off, and then I can address my question to Rawchaa.
Okay, Elder Rawchaa, is that okay with you?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. I'll be waiting.
Okay, let's go to the next caller from the 816 area code.
Hello?
Shalom.
My question is for is it Mr. Dr. Rood or hello?
Oh yeah, Mr. Rood.
Yes, go ahead. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes, bring your question. Come on.
I'm familiar with your ministry, and you consider yourself a pastor or a minister or what do you, a rabbi? What do you consider yourself?
Well, I'm a teacher.
Okay. Because I'm familiar with your ministry, and I was wondering what was because I was listening to Pastor Mike Hoggart online, and you and him had some debate or some differences of opinions about different things. Are you familiar with Pastor Mike Hoggart?
Name doesn't sound familiar, but
it doesn't sound familiar. Okay. My question is, because I have a lot of friends that I try and share the truth about Sunday worship, the holidays, birthdays, and that sort of thing. And my question to you is, what is the biblical what is the biblical penalty for a teacher not teaching the truth to their, and I'm familiar with Jeremiah chapter 23, but what is the penalty biblically? And I think Jeremiah 23, I guess that fits it. But when they're presented with the truth, they have a responsibility to share their truth when it's presented to them. Is there because there's a lot of people that you might come and tell them, hey, Sunday worship, and you show them, and they still continue on with their doctrine. I guess that would be accepting the traditions of men. But what, in your opinion, what would be the penalty for accepting those traditions over the truth. And you seem to be a man who loves the Most High in truth.
Well, to be able to lay out an exact penalty would mean that I would have to know all of the rules of judgment, and that has obviously been left in the hands of Yeshua. As far as specifics, it speaks of those who deliberately deceive those ministers who have turned away from the truth. It says it'd be better for them to have never known the way of truth than to know the truth and to turn away. So whatever that means, it doesn't sound like a very good verdict, but I will leave that into the hands of the Messiah. Our job is to hold forth the truth and to confront people with the truth. And there are those who, their religious system, and that's the way it is with most of Christianity, it's not based on the Bible anyway. It's just based on traditions that came out of Rome, and it has very little to do with the Bible. They use little Bible verses occasionally, once a week in order to establish little numbered sound bites that they call doctrines, but for the most part, the real issue is the prophet of whom Moses spoke, that we must shema, we must hear and obey. Yeshua did not come the first time as the Messiah to live happily ever after and rule over Israel if they accepted him. That is ridiculous. The first time he came as the prophet that we are to shema, to listen, to hear and obey. And my experience in the Christian world is I can, especially now, there's rarely a time that I can even have an intelligent conversation about the Bible and about what Yeshua teaches, because nobody knows what they teach. All they know is a little sound bites. They've been fed out of church, and they have no idea what the gospel of the kingdom is that Yeshua and his disciples were preaching. All they think is the gospel is some kind of death, burial, and resurrection teaching, when that was never the gospel of the kingdom that Yeshua and his disciples were teaching. So, getting people to actually understand what Yeshua is teaching in its context and why it is, the very specifics of the conflict between Yeshua and the Pharisees, if they will finally understand that, then they will understand modern-day religion and why Yeshua himself said most of those, it says in the Greek, who say they follow him will be told to depart, get out of his face. They never knew him, and he never knew them. And that is the tragedy of Christianity, is that most Christians think that just because they follow the rules of their denominations, they get in, and they're in for a rude awakening someday, because he will be the judge, and those who do not do and obey what he said to do, regardless of what their denomination said, he is the one that deals out the verdict on that. And thankfully, I don't have to be concerned about the judge and his verdicts. I just have to be concerned about, am I doing what he told me to do?
Okay. All right, man. 816, I hope that answers your question. Let me move on to the next caller. And whilst I'm getting that call, Mr. Rood, this is a question from myself here. That's about Christianity, right? And we understand that Christianity is man-made. And you also mentioned that Judaism is man-made, right?
Absolutely.
What would you say for those millions of Jewish people who are following Judaism and which is man? What would be the talk to them? Because wouldn't you say that they're equally deceived just as Christians?
Well, I say that Yeshua came into a world dominated by Pharisaic Judaism, and he reproved their religious system, and they killed him for it. If Yeshua were to come into the Christian culture today, he would be received with the same warm reception, because the basis of the Torah is, thou shalt not add one single commandment unto the commandments given to you at Mount Sinai. You shall not diminish thereof, so that you may do all the commandments of Yahovah, your Elohim, the Lord your God. And that is the foundation commandment in the Torah, because if any man is allowed to add a commandment or take away a commandment, then you no longer have the commandments of God. You now have the beginning, at least, of a man-made religious system.
Okay.
Modern-day Judaism is ancient Phariseeism. It's proudly understood that they are one and the same. To be a rabbi today, you must be ordained by a rabbi who is ordained by a rabbi that goes back before the 1st century. That is what it takes to be a rabbi today, because it is Phariseeism, and Phariseeism is based on adding thousands of commandments to the Scripture and taking away commandments at will. It is called in Hebrew, takanot and ma'asim. And, of course, those words and the definition of it appear in the ancient Hebrew Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew, in which Yeshua says specifically, do not follow the takanot and the ma'asim of the Pharisees, for they say they follow Moses, but they don't do what Moses said to do. Every man-made religion is castigated and exposed by what Yeshua teaches. It's just that most people, when they read the Gospels, they think that Yeshua is breaking the Torah when he is deliberately, vehemently, and repeatedly breaking the man-made rules of their religious system, and that's why they kill him, because he has not only challenged their authority, he is teaching tens of thousands of Israelites not to follow their authority, and because of that very thing, that is why they set out to kill him after doing the miracle of simply healing a man who was lame for 38 years, because he tells a man to pick up his bedroll and to deliberately violate the law of the Rood, which is a technically defined law in Pharisaic Judaism that prevented that man from carrying a bamboo mat under his arm that day, whereas any observant Pharisees could have carried something that was 10 times larger and weighed 10 times as much.
Okay. And one more question again before I take the next caller. What's your view on the Talmud?
Well, the Talmud is the codification of Pharisee law, and the Talmud really gives us the understanding of the laws that Yeshua is deliberately and vehemently breaking in the gospel record. So it is an accurate record of the teachings of the Pharisees, and it is a full exposure of a false religious system. The Christians have their own versions of the same thing, but that's usually codified in their commentaries on the Bible, and that is what the Talmud and the Mishnah and the Aramaic Targumim are in Judaism. That is their interpretation, but it is actual Pharisaic law that is in the Mishnah. I carry the Mishnah, in the Talmud. I carry the Talmud, the Mishnah. I have all these now on my computer so I can access them. So when issues come up, people want to know what Yeshua is breaking. He never breaks the Torah, never once. He never adds to or subtracts from, because that is the biblical Torah definition of a false prophet. But what he is doing is breaking the religious rules of the Pharisees, which is modern-day Judaism.
And just to be clear, with your ministry, you teach from the Talmud. That's what you're saying, right?
No, I say I teach from the Talmud to show what Yeshua is violating. I do not teach that the Talmud is legitimate a way to follow God. It is just the opposite. It is the complete codification of Jewish law that is an invented religious system of the Pharisees.
Okay. I'm
saying if you don't understand certain things in the Talmud and understand what Yeshua is violating, then you miss so much of the Gospels and what Yeshua is doing. That's why I say, most people think Yeshua is violating the Torah when he's not. He's violating Jewish law. To understand Jewish law, you have to understand the Talmud. But I'm not telling everyone to read the Talmud. I read it so I can teach you what Yeshua is teaching and what he's violating.
Okay. All right, let me move on to the next caller, okay? From the 330 area code. Let me go straight there. Shalom.
Shalom. I'm sorry, I got on the line by accident. I'm sorry.
Okay, never mind. I'll just hit 1 and I will take you out of the queue, okay? Let me go to the next caller from the 323 area code. Shalom. Hello. Going once, going twice. Caller from the 323 area code. You there? Okay. Let's go to the next caller from the 202 area code. Shalom. Hello, can you hear me? Okay. Seems to have a lot of people here pushing 1, but not staying beside the phone. Let me go on to the next one, the 817 area code. Shalom.
Shalom. Shalom, hello?
Yes, hello, you're live. Go ahead. Question, comment?
Yeah, I had a question for Mr. Rood. Who do you believe it's kind of off the subject, but who do you believe is the great whore, and who do you believe is the first and the second beast? Because I would like to understand your understanding on those three, please.
The question of the great whore of Babylon. That's the question. What is my take on what the great whore of Babylon is? Well, it can be a very broad, sweeping thing, which are the religious systems of this world, and Babylon itself, as it talks about Babylon, it says it gives us 2 entire chapters for the destruction of Babylon. The first chapter in Revelation chapter 17, I believe it is the address, is the description of Babylon as a system, not just as a religious system, but as an economic system. It is a current day revisitation of ancient Babylon and the Tower of Babel, that period, in which Nimrod built a one-world government, a novus ordo seclorum, if you please. This is less than 400 years after the flood that the Tower of Babel incident actually transpires, and it is a economic, a political, and a religious government, world government system that is designed to enslave people. We see in the book of Revelation that very same typification in economic, political, and religious system that is going to, in the very next chapter, be completely destroyed. It is Yeshua who completely destroys this entire Babylonian system before he returns to rule the earth. And it says, it gives after 2 chapters the reason why it must be destroyed, because the merchants of Babylon, the financial system, the merchants of Babylon are the great men of the earth. And this is where we're talking about those who have bowed the knee to Satan, those who are ruling over the earth, who have finally turned the planet into a prison planet. They have been exterminating people by the millions and billions at this point. It says that they will all be destroyed because the merchants of Babylon are the great men of the earth who, through pharmakia, deceive the nations. And this very same verbiage, as we have the book of Revelation, we only have it in Greek now, but yet the Greek of Revelation, as in the Gospels, is clearly, it's street Greek. It's a mess compared to to Plato, compared to any Greek literature. The Gospels and the book of Revelation are really very rough Greek, because the Greek is describing a completely Hebrew culture, Hebrew figures of speech, and in the book of Revelation, it was so obvious, just as Matthew, that the Greek that's used is really coming from Hebrew. But it's providential, because we now, with the Greek of
the book of Revelation, we can go right back to the Septuagint. In the 45th chapter of Isaiah, we get the exact same verbiage of the destruction of Babylon and why Babylon must be destroyed, and it is because of the pharmakia that is destroying all of the offspring. The husbands dying, the children dying, no one knows where it's coming from, no one has any idea what's happening, and it's because of pharmakia. And this is what the globalists have done through their multinational corporations. We walked into a grocery store today, and there is no okla in Hebrew or food in English. There's no food left in our grocery stores. You go through the aisles and you read the packaging. It is full of carbon chain constructs that have been compounded in laboratories. They make the things on the shelves look like food used to look like and taste like, but it is no longer food. It is made in laboratories. And we ask the question, why is it that 20, 30, 40 years ago, there was one case of autism in 10 to 50,000 people, children, and why it is now at the rate of 1 in 50 children are now being diagnosed with autism. It's because we are being destroyed. Genetically, we are being destroyed by the merchants of Babylon through this pharmakia and genetic modification. We are constantly poisoning ourselves, being poisoned by these people, completely dumbed down, and this pharmakia it says very specifically in the book of Revelation why Yeshua is going to destroy the entire economic, political, and religious system of this world is because through their pharmakia they have deceived the nations and they are destroying the entire population. It's our bloodline is being contaminated on a daily basis. Our DNA is being destroyed on a daily basis by these bastards of Babylon, and that great whore that sits on top of this is the religious system that is governing the whole thing. So, the part of my ministry is waking people up to the ramifications of how the great men of the earth are destroying us through pharmakia and getting people to turn their lives around, their health around, and the lives of their children. Stay away from the vaccinations where they're injecting into our bloodstream things that the scripture says we're not even supposed to put in our mouth. But we're injecting it straight into our bloodstreams, these vaccinations, and then we're eating the stuff that they put in the grocery stores, which is killing us and causing genetic epidemics, and there is no such thing as a genetic epidemic. They are causing the destruction of the gene pool of the planet, and as Yeshua said, if he didn't return, there would no flesh be saved. They would destroy everything.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Gentlemen, I just got the call in. I have to leave this minute for an appointment. It's been a pleasure to be with you, and I encourage everyone to go to our website, roodawakening.tv. Check out the chronological Gospels. It is the first time in the history of planet Earth that every incident in the life and ministry of Yeshua has been put in chronological order based on the ancient biblical calendar, the feast of the Lord, and this is something that will literally change your life. I'd like to encourage you to get that and dig into the Scripture, dig into the Gospels, and find out deeper what Yeshua is really teaching. Do not go by the religious system that we've been raised in order to find the truth of what Yeshua is speaking to us in this generation. So thank you, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. Yah bless and keep you. Amen.
Okay, Mr. Rood, just thank on behalf of the Gathering of Christ Church, thank you for coming on. All right, and we know you went over your time, but just in 20 seconds on your way out, please, because this was a question asked earlier. And what's your take on the situation right now with Israel and Palestine? Just in 20 seconds.
And 20 seconds, if it weren't for the death of those 3 Israeli teenagers that were abducted and then murdered, we would not have found out that there were 45 tunnels dug in from the Gaza into Israel. And on Yom Teruah this year, the Day of Trumpets, at the end of September, there was a planned invasion of 200 terrorists in each tunnel. And in one day, before the military of Israel would have an opportunity to respond, there would have been more than 10,000 Israelis slaughtered and numerous abducted before Israel would have been able to respond. So thankfully, Israel found out about it, and they're finally taking care of it, and every last one of them must be dead when the whole thing is over. Amen. Thank you.
Okay, if that's not Jewish propaganda, I don't know what is.
Hey. Wow. Okay. We'll be right back after this.
You are listening to an international GOCC Blog Talk Radio show. You are listening to an international GOCC Blog Talk Radio show. You are listening to an international GOCC Blog Talk Radio show.
Okay, welcome back to the Search Engine International. If you're just joining us, you probably need to go back and listen to the show in its entirety. All right, and I think especially those last 2 closing remarks, the last 15 seconds response to what was going on over there in Palestine. Elder Rawchaa.
Yes.
Talk to me.
Okay, of course, that's the propaganda, because in order for them to continue to bomb over in Gaza, they must have some backdrop stories claiming that they are being threatened. It's the same thing over and over again, straight propaganda. All right, there's no tunnels that they found. Thank God these people were kidnapped or killed. Even there's a silver lining of these 3 Israelis that was killed. We found tunnels they were digging, and if we wouldn't have bombed them, they would have came over and killed tens of thousands of them. What type of propaganda? Who can corroborate that story? That's directly from the government of Israel. But that's neither here nor there. I hope that brothers and sisters out there are hearing the show and see the importance of studying and understanding the truth concerning the Most High. And it's clear that the Messianic Jews have the same agenda. They're like vices. They're like devices, not vices, but devices used within the Synagogue of Satan program to infiltrate and destroy. A matter of fact, they're just finishing what Albert Pike said would happen. They would totally confuse Christendom after and then they'll destroy atheism and Christendom together. And they're doing it because those that are following under the Judaism sorcery are actually now being used as who's following the Jewish lie of who's Israel, are using that narrative to actually poison the well of the gospel and distort the prophecies concerning the coming of Christ. Are they doing it purposely? Some people, I believe that this particular guy, Mr. Rood, had some personal good intentions based on the information he was exposed to. But of course, he was taught Jewish pride like every other Jewish child. And who don't want to be the chosen? So of course he would take and hold dear to that. But because he's distorted with that information concerning who's who, he's also being used to actually topple the true message of Christianity in its good intentions. And that was part of Albert Pike's plan also. You notice when the show began, even though the brother, Mr. Rood, was talking and saying things, and he was moving in the points in which he had researched, I kept moving the bar back to where it was, to where, how can we talk about what's going on with Mystery Babylon? How can we talk about what's going on with the Illuminati, Secret Service, Masonry? If you really want to know what's going on, just follow the money. Who funded the New World Order? Who was always in position to bring forth everything we see today? That's common sense. You follow the money. All right? There's no place in the scriptures that said that the children of Israel in the last days would be operating as the key cog in Satan's machine to rule the world. The Rothschilds, on and on and on. He even named them himself, but still want to separate the New World Order agenda from the people who was placed in Palestine by Satan and the UN himself. Not once did he disagree with anything we brought forth when it came to the identification of Edom in jewelry in the Jewish Encyclopedia. Not once did he deny that when Christ was speaking to those who say they are Jews and are not, or he tried to term that the Pharisees and scribes were Israelites until we made it clear that Christ was speaking up to converts who was Edom that was running amok in the Sanhedrin trying to set up their bank system back then. So the only thing you have to do is follow the money. These same people have been infiltrating for years. They're the Romans. And see, it's up to us to bring the truth concerning who God's people are, because if you leave it up to even the most sincere of those people that are following the doctrines out there, even though he's tearing down Mystery Babylon and different doctrines, he's also participating in the same thing that they're participating in by denying the true people of God and teaching a false doctrine concerning the kingdom. Now, whether or not he's doing this on purpose, I can't say. But that last propaganda piece that I've just heard when you asked that last question lends me to understand that he's dealing with pro-Israel doctrine, but using the Messianic Jewish path to do it.
And Elder, may I comment as a Kabar?
Yes, sir.
You know, there's been a lot of these Messianic Jewish people popping up in the last, I will say 20 years or so.
Yes.
I believe that organization has been around since the early 70s, but it's really wrapping up in a high level now. And I'm thinking what it is, and I think what happened is he's analyzing, what this guy is talking about. I think in their mind, the powers that be, they decided, okay, we can't hide the fact that that the Jewish people are literally running the world. It's coming out. There has, there has to be, we can't really hide it. So what we have to do is we have to send out there Jewish people out there. They are against other Jewish people to try to have like a reference of like, well, not all Jewish people believe in this, or not all Jewish people, are the Synagogue of Satan, because all the people that he is talking about, the Synagogue of Satan, the powers that be, he agreed with you when you mentioned all those names and all those companies was Jewish. He said, yeah, they are now they are the Pharisees. So now I think they're coming out with a doctrine that you got wicked Jewish people against righteous Jewish people, and now the good people have to follow the righteous Jewish people, and they're going to give them the right, the right doctrine, so to speak, and they're going to go back to the same principle of people following the Jewish people because they have the answer. So don't follow these Jewish people because they're bad, but follow me because I'm Jewish and I'm following the true and by default they don't have to even. They're already accepted as Jewish. That's why when I went into, the questions, like, I think it's kind of racist that when people outside of the European establishment start discussing, Hebrew Israelite things of that nature, you go into the same talking point. It doesn't matter. Just follow Jesus. I mean, that was not the question. The question is there anybody else that does not look like you that could be a descendant of Israel? Can we have that discussion as Christians? I mean, it's just, so I believe that a lot of these guys are provocateurs. I think these guys are just, out there just trying to shift the blame or try to say, well, not all Jewish people are bad. But this guy is pro-Israel. He actually he is supporting, by the last statement he say, the death and murder that the Israeli government is committing right now as we speak, dropping bombs and things of that nature, and all the Israeli government have not anywhere shown any evidence of one blowed up Israeli building, one blow up, family or house or a school. But yet they're saying the Palestinians are sending rocket ships and things of that nature to Israel. It's propaganda, and it's amazing how he could say that these are Pharisaic Synagogue of Satan in one hand, but yet he's going to believe the report that is coming out of the Pharisaic Synagogue of Satan. How can those two coexist? It makes no sense. But
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to tell you, I'm starting to find out, and I'm not going to speak of him in particular because I don't know him, but I'm starting to see for sure that there is a lot of Satanists that are actually hiding as activists and pastors and Christian pastors.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you, that's what's going on. There's a lot of straight-out Satanists with a blueprint on deception, because deception is actually part of their magic. If they can have you believe something that's not true through their psychology, it's part of how they control the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really starting to believe that these Satanists are coming to the forefront, and they're coming under the guise of philanthropy and helping and gospel, and they're playing on brothers and sisters' goodwill, because the last place you expect to be treated or to be dealt with deceitfully is within a religious setting.
Mm-hmm.
And these religious settings have become Satanist playgrounds. So when I read this thing that I've sent, I also sent it. I think I sent that same document. If not, I'll send it because I've been studying this stuff. The Albert Pike document. It lets me know that these Masons are not just Masons. There's a lot of them are straight up Satanists who have vowed an oath to operate, to do whatever is necessary to bring forth Lucifer, to bring forth their God. That's acting. That's these false flags. That's these drills that's going on. They're initiating. These are the secret things that are being discussed in these lodges and all that, on how to actually infiltrate religion and all that, so that they can introduce their God Lucifer. And I'm telling you, they're playing on the goodwill and the ignorance of those that love the Most High. We got to stop sleeping on these Satanists.
Yeah.
And the only way to deal with them is to understand what the gospel is and the truth is, and look them in their face, and like Christ said, if you're not bringing the truth, you're your father the devil. Christ wasn't pulling no punches when it came to them. You have to identify, and see, that's why I ran it down, so that you can try to skate around it and try to claim and bring out some stuff and mention Isaiah and a few prophets as if you've been reading the Bible. You can do that all you want, but the track record and time period of how these people have ruled the earth under Satan and what they've used in their tools leading to the mark of the beast are documented. You cannot deny that these people that set up Israel are the children of Satan. You can't deny that. You cannot, and see, you can't speak through both sides of your mouth. You can't say that these people are the Pharisees, which we agree. They are Pharisaical. They are against Christ. It was an atheistic state that was set up, and it was a colonized state of Rome that was set up in Israel, because Great Britain signed the declaration, the Belfort Agreement, to give Palestine to the Jewish people. So that was a Roman colonization. So you can't say in one side of your mouth that these are the chosen people, and on the other side of your mouth claim that they are Pharisees and they are bastards. See, and that's the contradiction in itself. Do you understand? And and the key to tear all the lies down is by doing what we're doing, by putting it out there. Who are the children of Israel? Who are the children of God? And I want to say this, and it's important that we know this, because these are the same people with their finances that are raising money to let loose the Ebola virus, to kill our people exponentially in Atlanta, to move our people who will soon be homeless into fusion centers. It's the same bankers that are behind the scenes that are looking to destroy a large number, and the Bible prophesies that because a lot of us will not come back to the Most High, 90% of us will fall victim to the New World Order's agenda. They will kill 90% of the children of God. And a lot of it will be due to our ignorance and what we're not accepting now.
Absolutely. And I think we have to start attacking these talking points. And I think we should start creating some talking points of our own. You know, they got their anti-Semite as a talking point for us. You know, I think we should start, you know, creating some talking point when we start discussion about the lost sheep of the house of Israel. You know, because it becomes a situation that we can't discuss it. It doesn't matter. You know, just throw some, you know, Yeshua, love. It doesn't matter. You know.
Well, I actually through the conversation diffused that, and I was able to diffuse it because what they do is they talk in general and say that, well, I know people who claim that there's Khazarians and all Jews are evil, and by doing that, that's trickery in itself because it makes the listeners believe that we're saying that. So you have to be careful and listen to them clearly because they be projecting. But if a listener was to come in and hear it, they would believe that that's what we're thinking, and that's trickery they use by speaking broad, but it's really aiming it towards claiming we're anti-Semitic. So I diffuse that by making the statement, well, listen, I'm going to make it clear. I'm not saying that all Jewish people are evil. I'm not saying that all Jewish people are the synagogue of Satan or the devil, because I have proof that a lot of those people that came over on boats into Israel wasn't even practicing Judaism. They just needed that propaganda, and they needed to fill the ships with a lot of people so that they can take a snapshot for a newspaper in New York to proclaim a prophecy was fulfilled. A lot of these people were just going over there to work and make some money as contractors. A lot of them could care less about being Jewish. But to the ignorant that read the paper, they seen boats filled with Jewish people. It was nothing more than a propaganda piece so that the Zionists, the Romans, can now stake claim to the land of Israel because they believe the land belonged to them. They lost the land, Edom, when Esau sold his birthright and Jacob came in and took his blessing. So since that time, Edom believed that the land belongs to them. And they are the promised people. They are the people of the promise. But the promise they're receiving is not from our God. They're the promised people of Satan. You understand? So yes, they are promised. They are the promised people. They are the chosen people. They're the chosen people of Satan. And I'm speaking of the hierarchy that is set up over Israel today. And I'm not saying this personally as some anti-Semitic rant. I read Albert Pike's agenda, and I've also read right here on this show. If you're just tuning in, go back to the beginning of the show. I read how the banking system by the Jewish powers was set up while they was propping up so-called Christian founding fathers to us. They was actually behind the whole scene, financing the New World Order that will lead to the incarceration and the death of our people throughout the four corners of the earth. America was nothing more than a new base that the Romans would use with technology to find where Israel was scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. When the Romans came to America, they found us. They found the children of Israel, and they began their plan of extermination at that point. All right? They could not get us in Africa the way they wanted to because there were too many of us, and we were war ready. So now that they have now taken over the whole earth, they have used the fake AIDS program and the fake AIDS pandemic to actually bloat their numbers on their starvation and vaccination program that's been killing us, and they can hide these numbers by claiming that these people are dying of AIDS when really it's germ warfare and vaccination warfare and starvation and the poisoning of our waters that are killing us in Africa. And this is a systematic death that they use the AIDS, HIV, fake disease that don't exist so that they can bloat these numbers while they're killing us and everyone stands by idle. The last thing they're going to do is to have some fake terrorist garbage over in Africa claiming that there's terrorists that they've set up themselves, black people, and they're going to have the UN go in and try to kill us off in the final war. And who's financing this? The same bankers I just mentioned earlier. It's the last war before Christ come back and deliver the children of Israel. Africa is the wilderness that we fled into, fleeing from the Romans. And I want to make that clear. So we can put this all together now. Go ahead.
Let me just say, we got 40 seconds into overtime. We're about to go to the overtime. If you need to call in, please call in now, 646-200-4309. We're about to go into the overtime, 646-200-4309. Go ahead, Elder.
I can only do about 10 minutes to the overtime, then I got to get some rest. It's very early where I am now. I need rest, and I don't sleep long. So,
yeah, we can wrap it up if you like. Yeah, go ahead.
We don't got to wrap it. We can do 10 more minutes. But I just wanted to put that out there to the brothers and sisters, what's really going on.
Okay.
This is what you would call, what we heard today is religious COINTELPRO. Okay? All right.
Exactly. So, Brother Gotcha, I know there was a brother that had a question directly to Elder Rawchaa. Maybe we could bring him back on if he's still back on. Or if he's still on.
I think he is. That's
still there.
Okay. He is. That's the 203 area code. Let me go to him. Shalom.
Hey, Shalom.
Yes, brother. You had a question?
How are you? Yeah. I'd like to say shalom to all the brothers that's on the show, Elder Rawchaa, Gabar, and yourself, Brother Gadget. I just recently saw something, and they say something about fleeing the daughter of Babylon, talking about changing lives. It was very, very, very profound, and it shook my spirit to the core. I couldn't even believe that I was duped into even believing to stay in this country, and that the fleeing was really dealing with spirituality, leaving spiritually, which I was under the impression for many, many years. I just had a question, mainly dealing with Revelations, the 11th chapter, from the 8th verse down, I think, to the 14th. If you can...
Okay, let me get there with you.
Okay. And in saying so also, I did some research also. I didn't hear it on your particular show that I actually watched maybe 6 different shows dealing with the fleeing. And then I also have another question after that, if you will permit me.
Okay. That's fine. Okay, let's go. That's fine. We hit Revelations 11. What in particular?
Come again?
What in particular in Revelations 11 you wanted to discuss?
Starting from the I think it's the 8th verse all the way down. I just needed a breakdown of that because I was under the impression of a certain breakdown of that for years, that was really dealing with just miraculous deliverance. I mean, I'm not under that impression anymore. I've done my research with the help of watching your shows, Brother Rawchaa. I'm totally convinced that the fleeing is not spiritual. And something else I want to share with brothers as well that I found out that I actually didn't see in any of your shows, but I wanted to actually share that with brothers. So I just wanted to get an understanding of what that was actually dealing with.
Well, I need you to share that first. Share that, and I'll go into Revelation 11. Share what you have.
Okay, well, I was watching the show, there was like about 6 of them, and like I said, it was so profound. There was never a show that I ever watched in all my years of this journey in following after the Most High, listen to a show that actually made me stand up and cry out, literally, because I was so shooken with fear that I was almost in danger of staying in this place or even continuing to stay in this place. So in my studying, I saw something in Revelation, the 18th chapter, the 4th verse, where it says, "Come out of her." The Spirit moved me to look up the word "come," and a lot of brothers is using that and saying that it's to come out of her spiritually. They are confident in what they're saying about that. But if you just look up the word "come," it gives you the word in Greek, 1831. The word "come," it actually, I can't really pronounce the Greek word, but it says the meaning there means to come forth, out of, depart out of, escape, get out, go abroad, away from, proceed forth, spread abroad. Nothing pertaining to spiritual. That there sealed everything for me, as well as when you read in Jeremiah the 50th chapter, in the 28th verse and the 29th verse. Clearly there's 2 words that are there that are the same. It's escape. Escape is in the 28th verse. Escape is in the 29th verse. But there's 2 different numbers for it. 64:12 and 64:13. Now the 28th verse, the 64:12, says that the escape there is dealing with fleeing. Actually, let me go there right fast. It says to a refugee that have escaped. And then when you look at the 29th verse in the 64:13, where it says that none shall escape, it's actually saying that none shall be delivered. So it's using escape in both, but there's clearly 2 different meanings in the Hebrew. One is to flee out of, and one is if you stay, you shall not be delivered at all. So that was very profound. I didn't actually hear you go over that. Not saying that you didn't know about it, but it was very profound to me, and I thought it was something that I should bring up while I'm asking the question here. So I thought that was very profound, that these guys that are saying that it's spiritually come out of her, they're absolutely wrong. They're not correct in that. But
brother, let me answer to that real quick. The whole thing is, I've learned something, is that it's the same spirit that lead us to the same place. Now, I may not have looked at some of the words that you've seen, but we've all came to the same conclusion. Thereby, we're being led by the same spirit, in this in particular.
Right.
Second, I learn now not to focus on those that say it's spiritual, because leaving is not for them. They right. will fulfill the part for the people that stay. The only thing, when Christ dropped the word, he very rarely stayed in one area. One place they tried to make him a king. He dropped the word and he kept going. That's number one. So it comes to a point where spreading the gospel and teaching the gospel, we have to really just do that and understand that it's the Most High that still those with an ear to hear. We can't stand still battling someone that don't want to live. Now, and that leads us to Revelation 11.
Right.
When you go to Revelation 11, it says, "And their bodies shall be in the street of that great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, which we know is America, where also our Lord was crucified." How was he crucified? He was hung on a tree. They tell you in Galatians, cursed. I don't want to quote it wrong, so let me just get the verse here in Galatians to answer what you had there. One moment. Galatians 3:13. Christ hath redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us, for it is written, cursed is everyone that hangeth on a tree. So when they were hanging us on trees here in America, they were actually mocking the crucifixion of Christ. So when it says spiritually called Sodom in Egypt, where our Lord was crucified, it's not speaking of the area that Christ was crucified in Israel. It's speaking of the people of Christ being crucified in America. A lot of people don't know that the KKK is an extension of the wizards and the druids of Europe. They were actually dealing with ritualistic magic and actually killing us in sacrifices with the tree. Now, when you go back to Revelations here, and their dead bodies, you know that dead bodies link directly to the valley of the dry bones in Ezekiel 37.
Right.
So that area where it's called Sodom in Egypt, Sodom because you know homosexuality is now being, same-sex marriage and all that is actually being spawned from America. So the same place where we didn't know we were Israel, we walked around dead, didn't even understand who we were. Now it's called Sodom in Egypt because Egypt was a place we were in captivity. America, we were in captivity. Now when you read the 9th verse, it says, and they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves. So that's telling us that these people are not physically dead. If they're not in graves, they're not dead, they're walking. So that 3 days and a half is a consummation time from the time that Christ was crucified in Jubilee and the time of his coming. But we all know Satan's time he have here will be cut short. So no man know the day of the hour. But that 3.5 days is times of Jubilee from Christ's crucifixion to the consummation, which is his resurrection. So that means the nations will see our people walking around like zombies, have no idea they're actually the people of Israel with a promise to rule the world. Revelations 11 and 10. And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them, and make merry, and shall send gifts one to another, because these two prophets tormented them that dwelt on the earth. Now when it says these two prophets, it tells you in the book of Isaiah that the two prophets is Judah and Israel.
Yeah.
So all the other nations, because our prophecy is that we're operating dead in the earth. So the two prophets is because the kingdoms were split in two. Israel and Judah. Let me get that real quick. And Isaiah. One moment. If you go to 43 and 1, it tells us, but now, thus saith the Lord that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel, fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name, thou art mine. And if you go down to the 10th verse, it says, ye are my witnesses. It's talking about those two, Judah and Israel, the two kingdoms which were split.
And you said 43 and 1, right?
43, 1 down to 10.
Gotcha.
So we are those two prophets that's walking around dead in the earth that all the other nations rejoiced over because we lost our identity. Now they're able to take advantage of us. They're able to absorb us and to send gifts and to become great on the earth. We lost our history. They didn't lose our history. So because we have fallen so far, now the nations can rejoice and be rich because they remember when we used to keep them in check. They have the history of our foreparents' wars against them. And that's why it says in Revelations 11, here, the part I left off at, where it says that And they that dwell upon the earth, the kings of the earth, shall rejoice over them, and make merry, and shall send gifts one to another, because these two prophets, we know they are Judah and Israel, the witnesses, tormented them that dwelt on the earth. We used to be the judges of the earth and would give the nations hell for worshiping Satan, for coming against the Most High. So when we fell, they gained authority, and because of our fall, they got rich and powerful in the earth, like Romans 11 chapter tells us. Now, I know that modern-day prophets try to claim that this is two witnesses that's going to be in Israel prophesying at the very end before some Antichrist and all that other mess. That's all distraction. This is speaking of the children of Israel and sleep over in America while all the other nations are rich and merry and operating on the earth without any level of spiritual sovereignty and morality in the earth. They have no one to rein them in like we used to. It tells us here, when you read down, and after 3 days and a half, the Spirit of life from God entered into them. That's going back to Ezekiel 37 again. And they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. So when we begin to wake up and they see us all over on the streets, all over the earth waking up, the kings of this earth, I'm speaking of the high kings of the earth, are quaking in their boots. They're scared. That's why they're doing all these false flags and trying to ramp up this fake Ebola and trying to incarcerate us, because they know they did everything to stop us from finding out. And the only way we could have found out was from the Most High himself.
Right.
Because if it was up to them to tell us, it would be like me pulling teeth with Rood this evening. They would never tell us because they gained their glory and power due to our fall. So they would never tell us anything that would benefit us. Our status shows them how great they've become. So they need to keep us low and ignorant and stupid, vaccinated, drugged up. They need to keep us dumb. And another thing, they've tried keeping us dumb, and now those that are not even educated are smarter than the wise men of this world through the Spirit of the Most High. That's another thing that scares them. One other thing I wanted to bring out here in Revelation 11. And I heard a great voice, 11 and 12, from heaven saying unto them, come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. That's speaking of, and that links directly in in Thessalonians. When Christ returns, the dead in Christ shall rise first, and those that remain on earth shall meet him in the air. That's the end of the 3.5 days. That's the consummation when we're changed before the eyes of the world, before the eyes of the Gentiles, and we stand on this earth not as vagabonds, not as robbers, not as prisoners, not as thieves or robbers, but the children of the Most High, shining forth with light, fulfilling the promise that was given to our father Abraham.
And this particular verse here, this is the main verse. This is after the destruction of Babylon.
Exactly. Now,
because they use this to say that this was simultaneously as Babylon is being destroyed by nuclear missiles, that we would be delivered before.
What they got to do, brother?
Well, I'm just right. Well, I know from One West years ago, where I got my training started from there. This is what they indoctrinated us for years, and
brother,
after I saw,
brother, I was in One West.
Right. Well, I'm familiar with that. I know somewhat of a history of you. Not everything, but I know you come from the old school like myself. But this is what I've been indoctrinated into until I saw they say about fleeing the daughter of Babylon. That's why it shook my spirit to the core when I heard the information that you brought out. And by the way, before I heard that show, I actually heard the debate between a young brother that had came in. I guess you had said in one of your other shows that if you had known about this brother, you would have never let him come on, but he came on anyway, and he caused a whole lot of turmoil, and I happened to see that show before I even heard the so-called fleeing doctrine, because now it's not a fleeing doctrine, it's actually a commandment of the Most High in my mind. But I heard that, so I was even more convinced when I heard that, but then when I heard you actually explain it, because you weren't on that particular show, it just shook me. So I had to really dig deep and go a little further into it, which brought me to this situation, but I needed to know what this was all about, because this was the main scripture that they used to indoctrinate us, that this would all happen simultaneously. Okay. And I'm realizing that it's not. This is, you don't have to go any further. That's pretty much the point I wanted to get to, which, I'm actually seeing it all clearly now. So, it's like closing the chapter on that, and I definitely appreciate that. The other question, because I know you wanted to leave in 10 minutes after 8 o'clock hit, but I wanted to ask you about South America. You had made some comments that was, I wouldn't say incomplete, but left me with more questions. You had spoken about brothers that are in South America having a difficult time, and then you said something also about fleeing to the mountains. Brothers who flee to the mountains. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I just needed to know more about your comments on South America and the brothers that were in South America waiting for the ships of Tarshish.
Okay, good question. Number one is we know that what America is planning, it's quite simple. It's not hard to understand at all, because as you know, you being a man that has read the Bible, that there's nothing new under the sun. These powers are not going to do anything new outside of what they did against us when we were in Jerusalem, when we were in Israel. It's the same plan. So what I did was I read the complete antiquity of the Jews, because I wanted to see exactly what Antiochus Epiphanes, not Antiochus Epiphanes, but Vespasian and Titus planned, and how they planned it. And it actually chronologized the whole set. And it went from not one president to the other, but it went from one Caesar to the other. But it was the same administration with the same plan, with Satan at the helm. And when I read that, it became clear to me how they're going to do this, and it's the same thing they're doing now. They use a false flag, which Nero burned Rome 7 years prior. 7 kings in Rome. As a pretext, they blame the Jews, and they use that as a false flag to go against us. That eventually led to our demise and us fleeing and was, and our incarceration and slavery to the Romans. Now, 9/11 was that false flag, right? So now they use that as a pretext. It ain't about bin Laden no more. Now the terrorists are regular citizens and black people and all that now, right?
Right.
The same time, right after they did that, they were building a stronghold all around Jerusalem to kill us and destroy us. And that's what Christ says, when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, flee into the wilderness, flee into the mountains. So those that took heed to the prophecies knew it was time. When you see high occupation of military, it's time. That's your sign. Your sign is what Christ tells you. So you can sit there and think the military there to check you at a ball game or to help direct traffic if you want. So you're not going to see another sign. When it happens, military will already be in place. So what they're doing is they're building borders 50, 70 miles inland around the United States. They've already built a garrison of military, which they call immigration border control, when they could care less about immigration border control. There's people coming over the border regularly to work in America and going right back to Mexico and being ushered by the U.S. government. What's going on now, they're going to build a garrison around the United States because parts of Mexico will be a part of the United States. All right, they've already destroyed Mexico through the drug cartels. That was all systematic plan, so they can merge the whole together. Canada, America, and Mexico will be considered the hub of Babylon. And the garrison will be no one will escape out of these particular areas. Okay? So there's areas in which will still be intact, in which a ship of Tarshish will be able to go there. But that's the other side of South America. That border. You want to be near Panama, Belize, all those particular areas. And it's no coincidence that the so-called elite of this earth are buying up that property like it's gold right now because it's cheap on the dollar.
Right. I've done my research on that.
Exactly. Because they understand what places will still be intact. Now, what they're going to do, they use us, black people, and claim that Nigeria and West Africa have the Ebola disease that they brought from West Africa into America. That's an attack against us. They're about to come against us. And then they claim that these bodies are now being taken into Atlanta to the CDC. If something as deadly as the Ebola virus that can kill you, and you have a 1% chance of living, why would you fly that from Africa into Atlanta?
Into Atlanta, right.
They're not flying it into Atlanta. They're letting people know that they will soon let the disease go amongst the black population. Automatically, it makes all of us terrorists. It makes all of us a threat with that false flag garbage Ebola they're bringing. They're going to do something to bring it in. And we're going to be the blame according to the news reports. It's the same thing, brother, as Nero, the same thing as Vespasian and Titus. It's all together in one. And when it happens, when it finally happens, because they're going to claim it's an outbreak, then it's going to be a limit and test on who can travel, who can get on planes, who can go wherever, because everyone will be a threat. And now with the new executive order that Barry Soetoro, a.k.a. Barack Obama, has signed, with that new bill that he's signing, it's not for those that have Ebola. It's to quarantine the people who are healthy to make sure they don't get it. So that now they can imprison the whole population to say you're safe here. Because everyone outside there could be an Ebola threat. Brother, they're going to use, that's why I tell you in Job 13 and 4, there's positions of no value. They're going to use the healthcare system. They're going to use these fake diseases that they have created. And they're going to use propaganda and military warfare and our own ignorance to bring our population down to 90%. All right?
Right. So, again, the South America.
Yes.
I was asking about, you had made a comment about South America and fleeing to the mountains. Was that the reference that you brought to what Yeshaya spoke of?
Absolutely.
Okay. So now when you say South America, where in particular, and where in the mountains in particular?
Well, this is where do you reside?
I'm in America. And since I saw that in Connecticut.
Kansas City?
No, Connecticut. Yes.
Okay. Have you been operating with Elder Gabar and those on the East Coast?
No. I've seen you guys in 2009, and I actually was in contact with a brother. I don't remember who it was in 2009. My computer got shut down. Everything got shut down. I haven't spoken to you guys since then. As a brother in Florida who pretty much reintroduced me back to you brothers, and I pretty much stood still because of you brothers was in agreement with reading the book of Enoch, when a lot of brothers that I was communicating with was not. So, and then you explained certain things about the book of Enoch that I was so very confused, and at the time you brought it out, the Spirit of the Most High really opened up my understanding, and I just sat right here. I haven't gotten with anybody. Pretty much, before I really do any of that, I like to do my research, and study, not primarily about the group, but about what you're teaching before I just jump into anything. So pretty much I'm in the stage of finding out, doing my research, and you know, so far so good. I know there's a lot of things that we may not agree on 100%, but again, so far so good. I'm pleased. I'm happy. Constantly thanking the Most High for really reintroducing you guys, Rawchaa, the GOCC, back into my life. So I haven't really sat down and did any of that because I'm still in the searching and seeing and studying and checking out your information and making sure that, number one, you know, can two walk together unless they agree? So we have to agree. So, you know, a lot of things have been revealed to me by the Heavenly Father by way of watching your shows. So this is why I'm on the show. This is why I'm asking the questions. So, no, I have not as of yet.
Okay, well, what I could suggest is, because we do have your number, and I know Elder Gabar is on, you can get a call. And brothers with the same background that you have, who have come to the understanding that we've all come to through the Spirit of the Most High, can actually share it with you. And what I'll do is I'll take your number. I need, guys, I need you to give me his number, and I'm pretty busy right now, but I will write your name down, and when I have the opportunity, I will call you, and you can talk.
Yeah, Elder, this is Gabar from New York. I wrote the brother's number down. Is the 203, correct?
Absolutely.
No, it's 816, right?
No, 203 I got here.
Oh, yeah, 203,
Okay, brother, what's your name again?
Gabar.
Gabar, okay, so I'll give you a holler, you know, after the show. We'll talk. We'll wrap.
Okay, then.
Okay.
I definitely appreciate this time. Thank you.
Okay, shalom.
All right.
All right.
Okay, bless you. And there's no one better than Gabar to deal with you on that, because Gabar is from the way, he was there from the beginning almost, so. All right?
Got you. Right.
All right. Okay. So, well, I stayed longer than I was supposed to, a half hour over. What I'll do is next week, we'll just come on and answer a few questions, and we'll just take the first 30 minutes and answer questions. I know a lot of you wanted to ask some questions, and we're just going to get into, if we don't have guests next week, we'll just get into what's going on and what we can do about it. Okay? All right. Shalom, may the Most High be with you. Come here to Allah, rise, Israel, and let's stay in the spirit. Shalom.
Kingdom swag, kingdom flow. We was once lost, now we. Y'all ain't never seen a man of God crying like that. Pull up on the block and know they die like that. It should be a true crime for him to shine like that. Put the word on the track and make him bring it back. Y'all ain't never seen a man of God crying like that. Pull up on the block and know they die like that. It should be a true crime for him to shine like that. Put the word on the track and make him bring it back. Bring it,
Got a kingdom elegance shooter. I am in my element shooter. Banging out the trunk like an elephant shooter.
Bass in your face.
Exercise spirit with a pen and a paper. Hope I make a sweet savor when the smell hit the savor. So when I get lyrical, then I get spiritual. When I get spiritual, I feel a bit. But a beat is kinda like my spot. Demeanor is my rod. Truth is kinda like the tempo. Scriptures is my knife. The altar is my mic. The beat is a clean animal. I slid every time I spit. I sacrifice. I ain't killing the track, in fact. Beheading it like it's a Nephilim. If they are taller, then we should go level them, stepping on ground that they should have never been. My savior's coming to rid of the pestilence. Better start questioning who you are reverencing. It don't got nothing to do with intelligence. You cannot make it based off of your melanin. Are you inhaling and heroin better than Frank Lucas when he was selling it? King represent, I'm full. Just take the beat, I don't need no dinner. Cross the finish line, make me a winner. You shy in my corner, I beat that sin up. When it comes to saying, man, I got a short temper. Karate size it up like a Shaolin temple. This one thing that you should remember. Kingdom, swag, kingdom, flow. We was once lost, now we know. Kingdom, swag, kingdom, flow. We was once lost, now we know.
Y'all ain't never seen a man of God crying like that. Pull up on the block and know they die like that. It should be a true crime for him to shine like that. Put the word on the track and make him bring it back. Y'all ain't never seen a man of God crying like that. Pull up on the block and know they die like that. It should be a true crime for him to shine like that. Put the word on the track and make him bring it back. Bring it, Ahaya, Yeshaya, Wara, walk. The love that he has for us never stop. Even if we get weak when we walk through the wilderness, a breathe breath in you right before you drop. Stop, watch, tick, tock. There goes another day. Father, in the name of his son, it's the only way. So I make reference unto him every time I pray. Finally found the truth. Ain't no turning back, I'm here to stay. Died to my flesh, now I'm made new. GOCC got a made crew. Shout out to Elder Rawchaa, most high had them properly utilized. YouTube, now you too can learn what I learned. Probably even more if your heart should yearn. Hit the hammer on the table, courts adjourn. Open shut case, either live or burn. Either way it go, you gon' live or learn. You ain't gotta tell me I'm a still discern. Shining bright like a light bulb. Turned up, no nightclub. Kingdom, kingdom, swag, swag. Kingdom, kingdom, flow, flow. We was once lost, lost. Now we know. Kingdom, kingdom, swag, swag. Kingdom, kingdom, flow, flow. We was once lost, lost. Now we Y'all ain't never seen a man of God grind like that. Pull up on the block and know they down like that. It should be a true crime for him to shine like that. Put the word on the track and make him bring it back. Y'all ain't never seen a man of God grind like that. Pull up on the block and know they down like that. It should be a true crime for him to shine like that. Put the word on the track and make him bring it back. Bring it,
Pause the track for this intro so I can say a prayer for my kin folks. Amen. Let's get back to it. Tell me on the track and sin, I died to it. Finally out the pigs, trying to save all the Israelites. My brother, my Aki, my partner, my Judah. Sister, Akwati, my helper, my beauty. Gotta give props to my Savior. Wasn't for human be able to do this. Dismantle this mic, you can call it my pulpit. King on the track, moonwalking on it. Don't call me Mike Jack. Put a straight jacket on me, cause yeah, it's like that. When you wake up at the mix, they pull you right back. Total recall. The kingdom's right here, and the idols gon' fall. Got my soul with me, I'm girded up, y'all. Yelling, Cornisha, I'll wake up at that hoax. Cornisha, I'll wake up at that hoax. Cornisha, I'll wake up at that hoax. Y'all kingdom's like a little too bold.
Y'all ain't never seen a man of God grind like that. Pull up on the block and know they down like that. It should be a true crime for him to shine like that. Put the word on the track and make him bring it back. Y'all ain't never seen a man of God grind like that. Pull up on the block and know they down like that. It should be a true crime for him to shine like that. Put the word on the track and make him bring it back. Bring it, Kingdom, kingdom, swag, swag. Kingdom, kingdom, flow. We was once lost, lost. Now we know. Kingdom, kingdom, swag, swag. Kingdom, kingdom, flow. We was once lost, lost. Now we know.